Hit that button. I'm on my buttons now, chat. We're almost ready to get started here. There's that button. And what is the last button? The last button is always this button. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna get to this. We're gonna be talking about this in a second. We gotta do the Lex Fridman thing right now. Yeah, it's sad that the thing that might finally get a ceasefire has nothing to do with stopping a genocide, right? Because it seems like the most obvious thing in the world. But yeah, it does have to do with the hostages and people being mad that there are people that are no longer alive that would have been alive potentially had Netanyahu not negotiated in bad faith. That's what he's doing, chat. He's throwing in stuff that are non-starters. So as far as the negotiations go for a ceasefire, it involves Israel, it involves the United States, it involves Hamas, and it also involves Egypt. Why Egypt, right? Because part of this negotiation is stuff like, is Israel going to have troops in the Philadelphia corridor? And that is the border between Gaza and Egypt, right? So the Egyptians sort of have to be involved in this. And when you are demanding troops, when you're demanding Israeli troops in the Philadelphia corridor, you're putting in something that Egypt would never agree to. So in other words, there's things in the negotiations that just preclude any real agreement, right? If I negotiate with you and I say, all right, the first thing I want to say is like my red line in the sand is like, I get to come over to your house, I get to wipe my dirty feet on the floor. I got my dog. My dog will be pooping on the floor. You will have to clean this up, right? And that's where we're starting the negotiations. Am I negotiating in good faith with you, or am I am I serious about negotiations? You know what I mean? It's kind of like that, right? There's ridiculous stuff that is a non-starter, like laid into the bottom line for Israel, meaning that there really is nowhere that the negotiations can go. So that tells you that that Netanyahu and Israel do not actually want a ceasefire, do not want an agreement, and are not. I mean, even the provisions about like the ceasefire part of the ceasefire, Israel's saying, well, not like a ceasefire, more of like a temporary exchange of hostages, and then we go back into Gaza and we do more shit, right? And it's kind of like that's not a ceasefire. That's not a ceasefire. So yeah, no. It's no surprise that there hasn't been a ceasefire agreement yet. Israel is absolutely making sure that that doesn't happen. And people in Israel who, especially people who lost relatives, the families of the hostages, and people who care about getting the hostages back, have now decided they don't like what Netanyahu's doing because it's resulted in the deaths of 6 people that didn't have to die. What are we doing? Lex Fridman, Donald Trump. Let's get started here. Donald Trump on the Lex Fridman podcast.
Call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they.
What? There's logic. So yeah, Lex Fridman. Now, don't blame me too much if I skip around a little bit, right? Lex Fridman is very low energy in terms of his podcast. I think we've watched there was like a debate between Shapiro and Destiny here, and that sounds like fire, right? Ben Shapiro versus Destiny. That sounds like at least it's exciting. Like, I mean, it's cursed and it's fucked up, but at least it's going to be fireworks, right? And it wasn't, because it's on Lex Fridman, and there's just something about his show that's like kind of inherently boring. So I don't want to get bogged down in this. This is an hour-long interview. We probably won't watch the whole thing, but I want to get, especially the part like we gotta see what the this is a conservative questioning Donald Trump on the Epstein thing. This is something that you don't see very much, and so I'm really interested in what his response is. Anyway, let's get started.
I don't know if you know this, but some people call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they call me a lot worse than I call them.
A lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
I believe you have to fight fire with fire.
Politics is a dirty game.
It is a dirty game. It's certainly true.
How do you win at that game?
They suffer from massive Trump derangement syndrome.
I believe that somebody is suffering from a derangement syndrome right now, but Donald Trump, it's you. It's you suffering from Kamala derangement syndrome.
TDS. And I don't know if it's
ADS.
curable from their standpoint.
I think we'd probably have a better world if everybody in Congress took some mushrooms, perhaps.
First of all, medical marijuana has been.
What? Bro's talking about mushrooms. Come on. Have you not watched Joe Rogan enough to know what these Joe Rogan wannabes are all about? Cannabis is passé to people like Donald Trump, right? He's interested, or sorry, to people like Donald Trump, to people like Lex Fridman, right? He's interested in something a little stronger.
Amazing. It's been, I've had friends and I've had others and doctors telling me that it's been absolutely amazing.
The list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it?
The following is a conversation with Donald Trump on the Lex Fridman podcast.
I really hope he gives us more like it's very interesting, more than it's very interesting.
They're getting smaller and smaller.
They're getting smaller.
Right?
I mean, people do respect you more when you have a big camera for some reason.
No, it's cool. And about 20 guys.
Oh, cameras.
Right?
All right. Okay. You said that you love winning, and you have won a lot in life, in real estate, in business, in TV, in politics. So let me start with a mindset, a psychology question. What drives you more, the love of winning or the hate of losing?
Maybe equally, maybe both. I don't like losing, and I do like winning. I've never thought of it as to which is more of a driving force.
You've been close with a lot of the greats in sport. You think about Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali. You have people like Michael Jordan, who I think hate losing more than anybody. So what do you learn from those guys?
Well, they do have something different. You know, the great champions have something very different, like the sports champions. And, you know, you have champions in other fields, but you see it more readily in sports. You see it over a weekend or you see it during a game. And you see that certain people stand out and they keep standing out. But it's there for you. It doesn't take a lifetime to find out that somebody was a winner or a loser. And so the sports thing is very interesting, but you know, I play golf with different people, and
I gotta say, as much as I said that Lex Fridman is low energy, Trump seems to be coming in like under Lex Fridman as far as energy, right? Trump seems to be coming in with even lower energy.
There's a different mindset among champions. There's really a very different mindset. There's a different thought process. You know, talent-wise, sometimes you can't tell the difference in talent, but at the end of a weekend, they seem to win. And it's very interesting. Like as an example, Tiger or Jack Nicklaus, he was a phenomenal winner. And he does have a different way about him. And Tiger has a different way about him. And Michael Jordan. And there's never one, you would think that there'd be one way. Arnold Palmer was the nicest guy you'd ever meet. And then you have some champions that aren't really nice. They're just focused on doing their job. So you have, you know, there's not.
He's talking about Hulk Hogan there, right? Hulk Hogan, not a nice guy. Famously not a nice guy. Everybody hated Hulk Hogan, right? And like wrestling is fake. So a lot of the beefs, a lot of the conflicts, you know, they're scripted, right? It's not really that they hate each other, but legitimately everybody hated Hulk Hogan. And part of the reason was that he was Vince's guy. He was Vince McMahon's guy. And, you know, there's things like for instance, Jesse the Body Ventura, former governor of Minnesota, tried to start a wrestling union. These guys get the crap beat out of them, even though they're not really like, you know, They're not really hitting each other as hard as they could. They still got fucked up. They still need health insurance. Jesse Ventura thought, like, hey, this is our time. We've got some leverage here. Let's start a union. And it was Hulk Hogan, famously, allegedly. I don't want to get sued by famously litigious wrestler Hulk Hogan, but it was Hulk Hogan that ratted out Ventura.
Not one type of person, but the one thing I would say that everybody seems to have in common is they're very driven. They're driven like beyond.
They don't seem to give up easily.
They don't give up. They don't give up, but they do seem to be, they have a passion that's maybe more than people that don't do as well.
You've said that politics is a dirty.
I gotta say, he doesn't have the passion. He's not coming across as passionate right now. And he hasn't been ever since Sleepy Joe Biden got out of the race. It's like his heart's not in it, right? He misses Joe. He misses his bro. Like, right? He said all kinds of bad things about Biden, but I guess, he just misses him.
Game.
Yeah.
In the past.
He's sad.
It's a dirty game. It's certainly true.
So if it is a game, how do you win at that game?
Well, you win at that game by getting the word out and by using sense. You have to have a feeling where it's going. You also have to have a feeling of what's right. You can't necessarily just go what's popular. You have to do what's good for a country if you're talking about countries. But you have to get the word out, and you have to just continuously, like, for instance, you have a great show. You have a great podcast. It's very well watched. And I'm sitting here and I do this. A lot of people see it. And I do other things, and a lot of people see that. And I go traditional also. You have traditional television, which is getting a little bit older and maybe less significant, could be less significant. I don't know, but it's changing a lot. The whole plane.
Yeah, the jury's out, right? The jury's out as far. I mean, you gotta look at it this way, right? This guy, his one moment of success, right? Because they talked about him. They talked about success. They talked about success in a lifetime. Donald Trump is often attributed as being some kind of a avatar of success. The art of the deal, success in business, right? He did all these famous, he's this famous guy. He did all this stuff. In reality, he hasn't had many successes. This is a guy that has started off on third base, okay? And has not managed to steal home, right? He started off with all the advantages in the world, to the point where if you started off with Donald Trump's inheritance money and you just put it in the bank and let it collect interest, you'd be richer than Donald Trump. So the decisions that he's made, the investments that he's made, the ventures that he's made, right, have actually been not just unsuccessful, not just less successful, but phenomenally unsuccessful, right? He hasn't he hasn't really made money from them. He's lost his money a lot of times. He's gone bankrupt multiple times. Not a lot of people talk about this because he's always had friends like Pecker, the Inquirer, the editor of the Inquirer, was kind of like his guy. In fact, that came up in the Stormy Daniels case. But he's always had kind of press people out to sort of help him create this image for himself, create this legend for himself. And the thing is that he's never actually lived up to that legend. In real estate, he lost his ass. In casinos, he lost his ass. The one moment that you could truly call successful, right? The one thing that I will not take away from him is that The Apprentice was an incredibly successful reality show. I mean, right place, right time, and right branding, and he still has this sheen on him, and people don't realize that he is a man living a lie of success rather than a successful man that's actually good at business. But because people believed in him as this legendary Pokemon of business acumen, that went really well for him. So television is undisputably dying. All right, it's dying the fuck out. The people that still watch television are people who grew up watching television, right? Most of the rest of the world is getting its news, is getting its shows, is getting stuff online, right? But there is I don't know, 70 plus demographic that still watches TV quite a bit. So he doesn't want to think. He's I don't know. People say maybe it's going away, maybe it'll come back. Yeah, maybe people will be like, no, dude, I wanna pay like an outrageous cable bill again. Can we get that going? I wanna fuck around with the TV rather than like doing it easy mode, right? Rather than streaming and YouTube and all this stuff. Like, no, maybe TV will come back. Right, Donald.
Of platform is changing a lot. It's changed a lot in the last 2-3 years. But from a political standpoint, you have to find out what people are doing, what they're watching, and you have to get it. You have to get on. I just see that these platforms are starting to dominate. They're getting very big.
You think?
I do.
You think?
Spaces with Elon, and they got numbers like nobody's ever heard before. So, this is, you wouldn't do that on like radio. You wouldn't do those numbers, no matter how good a show.
Chat, I was about to ask, does he understand? Does he understand what those Twitter numbers actually represent? And the answer is no, he doesn't. There's no way. He literally does not understand. Yeah, like that's amazing. It's almost like more people like watched my spaces with Elon than like exist in the Western Hemisphere. That's wild, isn't it? Or it could be that Elon is counting impressions as views. Yeah, because that's what Twitter does. Because Twitter is losing, Twitter is failing, and he wants to be able to show you these huge numbers. Look at this Tucker Carlson. Oh my God, insane numbers. And you find out like you ask people who's actually watched it, and it's like nobody. Yeah, because if you even just scroll by there, you're like scrolling your Twitter feed, and Trump and Elon, their Twitter space comes up because it's being heavily promoted. You are now a view. You're now a view, right? You saw that and you scrolled. You mega scrolled, right? You just flipped it, right? You flicked it because you didn't want to see that. And you're a view. You're a view because your Twitter feed kind of like stopped on it for a second there. It's counting you as a view, right? So that's the kind of numbers that you've got. That's why nobody wants to advertise on Twitter. Honestly, even with all the Nazi shit, even with all the brand risks that's on Twitter, and that's the main reason that people started to move away from advertising on Twitter. People don't want to advertise on it because the views are fake, right? You're selling me something. I don't know. It's like, chat, if you were selling me gold and you said it was 20 karat gold. I don't know what carats actually mean, but I think more carats is good. You said this is 20 karat gold, and I go and take it to my gold tester and they test it and they're like, that's 5 karat. Am I going to buy your gold? Or am I maybe like way less likely to do it? And that's what Elon's selling. Elon is selling a steaming, flaming pile of dog turds, and nobody wants to buy it except for the, pussy and bio scams, and I don't know, whatever the hell else. The last time I saw an advertisement on Twitter, I think it was like the Liver King.
You wouldn't do those numbers on radio. You wouldn't do them on television.
His spray tan worked well, it seems. I mean, he didn't go as hard on it.
You've been successful in business. You've
Does it look like lasagna? No, it's baked potato.
been successful in politics. What do you think is the difference between gaining success between the
Baked potato with spaghetti sauce.
two different, disparate worlds?
Yeah, and they're different, very different. I have a lot of people that are in business that are successful, and they'd like to go over to politics. And
What's up, Nabil?
you realize they can't speak. They choke. It's hard to make a speech in front of that. Let's say you're talking about a big audience, but I get very big audiences. And, for many people, it's virtually impossible to get up and speak for an hour and a half and have nobody leave. It's not an easy thing to do. And it's an ability. But I have many people that are very, very successful in business, would love to do what I did, and yet they can't pull the trigger. And in many cases, I don't think it would work. Almost for everybody, it's not going to work. It's a very tough thing to do. It's a big transition. And now, if you talked about people in the business and politics going into business, likewise, that wouldn't generally work out so well either. It's different.
Is this an interview where he seems mega baked? I mean, maybe so. Raymond 100 says China. I could see that. Like I said, this is Lex Fridman. Lex Fridman am I wrong in saying this guy's known for like his low energy? Like, look, I'm not trying to look at somebody's content, which, you know, lots of people watch, and call it boring just because it's not my cup. Just because it's not my cup of
void coffee.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like I don't know how anybody watches this, if I'm honest, right? I don't understand. Even his debates are boring. There's something about his vibe that's just so chill. And maybe that's what people like about it, right? Maybe Lex Fridman fans, they appreciate the chill, like kind of. But to me it's just boring. But yeah, if Trump seems mega baked, that's probably why. He's been low energy lately, right? He hasn't really taken well to his new role as underdog in the election. He was winning the election for like a year. Ever since like October of last year, Trump was ahead. And it was just getting better and better for him. And then he has this debate with Biden. Biden just like shows himself to be that he shouldn't be a candidate. And you'd think that would be a really good outcome for Trump. But instead, it causes the Democrats to demand a new candidate, to demand that Biden dropped out. And when Biden dropped out, Trump's luck changed. Trump's luck, I mean, he had, talk about some good luck, right? This guy like turned 45 degrees in order to miss, a bullet contacting his cranium, right? That's very lucky. But he has not been so lucky since then. It's really gone downhill ever since the Republican National Convention, and now he is the unabashed, indisputed underdog, which, you know, you can do that. You can be an underdog and be like, yeah, people have counted me out, but guess what? I'm not done yet, right? You know, you can ride that underdog energy, but he hasn't. It's depressing to him. He thought he had the election won. He was ready to just like beat Sleepy Joe, which would have been great for him, right? Because he lost in 2020. Obviously, he's still coping. Obviously, he's still like claiming that somehow the election was stolen from him. He hasn't accepted the fact that Sleepy Joe Biden, that walking corpse of a man, defeated him on the field of battle in politics, you know, right? He can't accept that corn pop. Look, how do you think Bernie Sanders feels, Donald? How do you think Bernie Sanders feels, right? But yeah, Bernie, unlike Trump, has accepted that he lost to Joe Biden, to Sleepy Joe. Biden hadn't accepted that, so for him to turn it around and beat Sleepy Joe in 2024, that would have been amazing for him. And it's not going to happen. He's not getting the rematch, and the match that he's in now is a match that he is losing. And every reaction that he has, every natural instinct, right? His instincts had been great. His instincts had been great in 2016, and you know, I mean, he came pretty close to Biden in 2020, but now his instincts are betraying him. Now his instincts are hurting him. Now the more that people let Trump be Trump, the more that Trump loses, right? His instincts are to, you know, question whether Kamala Harris is black, right? That's not a winning issue for you, Donald. So yeah, in general, he is low energy. He is way lower energy than we've seen him. He seems depressed. He seems like not okay. We're watching right now the downfall arc. If you've ever seen that movie, The Downfall, right? This is like Donald Trump's downfall. And it's getting really, really dark. Really, really dark. It's only a matter of time until he starts blaming his most loyal soldiers. You've already seen some of that already. But it's going to intensify as this election gets closer.
Talents, it's different skills. I have somebody who wants to go into politics so bad, but he's got a little problem. He's got stage fright. Now, he's a total killer.
Ghost Austie says Trump is a bully, and he's sad that his buddy dropped out. He doesn't have a chance against a judge who, well, she's a prosecutor, but yeah, same idea, I guess, who knows how to argue against, who's dealt with felons like Trump all her life.
But if he gets up into a stage in front of people, he doesn't do well, to put it mildly, actually. I mean, he does badly.
Wait, who's he talking about? Did he mention who this was?
So you have to be able to
somebody he knows who wants to get in politics, but he's just not doing it right.
Make hard decisions like you do in business, but also be able to captivate an audience.
Look,
We need someone to ask Trump the most important questions, like why hasn't he decided to be black? There we go.
If you're a politician, you have to be able to speak in front of large crowds. There are a lot of people can't do that. I've seen it.
Well, wait, Miska, wouldn't he have to vote for Joe Biden? Isn't that the whole Biden? Anyway, that's an old meme. That's a 2020 meme. We're going to try to stay away from those.
Can't even think about
Nobody remembers hairy legs.
doing it. And they don't. There are many people in business right now. I could name them, but I don't want to embarrass anybody.
Chad Bilvilacqua says Trump's ahead in the polls. Chad, what kind of cope are you huffing, my friend? Which polls are those? Would those be Rasmussen and Trafalgar? Are those the only polls that you trust? Look, you're hard pressed now. You're hard pressed to find a Trump leading in a poll. It's not really. I don't even know if Rasmussen's got him ahead at this point.
They've been talking about running for president for 15 years. And they're very big in business, very well known, actually. But it takes guts to run. Like for president, I can tell you it takes guts to run. It's also a very dangerous profession, if you want to know the truth, but dangerous in a different
His ear looks really good.
sense, too.
Like, I can't even tell that he got shot there.
But it takes a lot of courage to run for president. It's not easy, but you have, and you know,
I feel like they probably gave him an ear transplant or something.
same people as I do. There are a lot of people that would like to run for president that are very, very successful in business, but they don't have the guts to do it. And they have to give up a lot.
One of the
He could be the black for Trump.
great things about people from the business world is they're often great deal makers. And you're a great deal maker.
The art of the deal, baby.
And you've talked about the war in Ukraine and that you would be able to find
You got a deal you can make there?
a deal that both Putin and Zelensky would accept. What do you think that deal looks like?
I think the deal, and I wouldn't talk about it too much because I think I can make a deal. If I win as president-elect, I'll have a deal made, guaranteed. That's a war that shouldn't have happened. It's terrible. Look, Biden is the worst president in the history of our country, and she's probably worse than him. That's something that should have never happened, but it did happen.
Did it? Is he admitting it? There's been a few moments, chat. I don't know if I've gone over this, but there's been a few moments where Trump seemed to either slip up and admit that he lost in 2020, or I don't know, maybe he was talking without thinking, but like that, or his campaign managers have told him that he needs to stop with the election denial because it's actually hurting him.
And now it's a much tougher deal to make than it would have been before it started. Millions of people. I think the number is going to be a lot higher when you see this all at
To make a deal before it started, what Trump's talking about doing is partitioning Ukraine and giving some of it to Russia, right? That's what the deal would have been. That deal would not have been, okay, Russia, you stay in Crimea, and that would have been a deal to partition the like east of Ukraine at the very least.
Iron out. I think the death numbers are going to be a lot higher than people think. When you take a look at the destruction and the buildings.
Apparently, Trump has a solution to the Ukraine war that he'll share as soon as we elect him. That sounds a lot like Richard Nixon's plan to bring, what was it called? He used a phrase in Vietnam so Nixon in 1968 was running, the Vietnam War was going. Johnson, the Democratic candidate at the time, dropped out because the war was such a fucking loser. And even his heir apparent, Hubert Humphrey, ended up, disavowing the war and saying that he wanted to end it before the election was over. But Nixon's plan, God, he had supposedly a secret plan to end the war. And it was something without dishonor. I can't remember.
Coming down all over the place in Ukraine. I think those numbers are going to be a lot higher. They lie about the numbers. They try and keep them low. They knocked down a building that's 2 blocks long. These are big buildings. And they say one person was mildly injured. No. A lot of people were killed. And there are people in those buildings, and they have no chance. Once they start coming down, there's no chance. So that's a war that absolutely has to get done. And then you have Israel, and then you have a lot of other places that are talking war. The world is a rough place right now. And a lot of it's because of the fact that America has no leadership. And I believe that she'll be probably worse than Biden. I watched the interview the other night. I mean, it was just a softball interview.
So you would like to see her do more interviews, challenged more?
I don't know. I can't believe the whole thing is happening. We had a man in there that should have never been in there. They kept him in a basement. They used COVID. They cheated, but they used COVID to cheat. They cheated without COVID too. But you had somebody in there, and now we have a woman.
Here we go, Chad. It's called Peace with Honor. This was a phrase that Richard Nixon used in a speech on January 23rd of 1973. So it was after the 68 election, actually into his second term, that he used this phrase to describe the Paris Peace Accords to end the Vietnam War. So yeah, it was peace with honor was the idea. The phrase is a variation of a campaign promise, there we go, that Nixon made in 1968. I pledge to you that we shall have an honorable end to the war in Vietnam. So yeah, Nixon or LBJ, well, actually, like the Vietnam War goes back to like Kennedy, right? And LBJ expanded it. People started to turn against the war in the late 60s, and you know, the Democrats had a hot potato that they were unable to really get rid of, right? The candidates for, you know, that being like, I think McCarthy would have been the candidate, Gene McCarthy would have been the candidate that would have opposed the Vietnam War the most. Robert F. Kennedy Sr. was gunned down, and so his campaign ended there. But yeah, the LBJ and his heir apparent, Hubert Humphrey, were seen as being supportive of a war that nobody supported at that time. So Nixon saying that we're going to have an honorable end to the Vietnam War. We're not, you know, the United States surrendering to North Vietnam would be dishonorable, but Nixon's got a plan. Trust the plan, right? And yeah, the plan did not go well, to say the least, right?
That is not, I mean, she couldn't do an interview. This was a really soft interview. This is an interview where they're given a multiple choice questions, multiple guesses.
Like, I do think that Kamala was not particularly, did not, you know, do a great job. Like, I mean, it wasn't a particularly good interview for her, but
multiple guesses.
But when you're doing these interviews, Trump, we've got 2 interviews of yours today, right? We're gonna be watching the Lex Fridman one and the Sean Hannity one, and both of these were disasters. So you can't really, like, it's a question of like, yeah, she did a bad interview, but like compared to what? Compared to this guy, it doesn't look so bad.
And I don't think
just like Donald Trump didn't do a particularly great job in the debate against Joe Biden, but compared to Biden, he looked amazing, right? Same kind of deal here.
She did very poorly.
How do you think you'll do in the debate coming up? It's in a few days.
So I've done a lot of debating, only as a politician. I never debated. My first debate was the Rosie O'Donnell debate, right? The famous Rosie O'Donnell debate, The Answer. But I've done well with debates. I mean, I became president. Then the second time I got millions more votes than I got the first time.
I'm sorry, the Rosie O'Donnell debate?
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
He's talking about the Republican primary debate with Megyn Kelly, I think, where he's asked about something that he said about Rosie O'Donnell. If there was a debate between Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell, I would have done streamer malpractice for not having watched that with you yet, because that is one spicy meatball right there. If Donald Trump's debating Rosie O'Donnell, I want to see that.
I was told if I got 63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that, and lost by a whisker. And look what happened to the world with all of the wars and all of the problems. And look what happened with inflation, because inflation's just eating.
Chat, let's go back to that. This is a moment, all right? This is a moment, like I said, there's been a few moments before where it kind of sounded like he was saying this, or he might have been saying this, but I'm going to call it. This is a conscious turn. This is a conscious pivot for Donald Trump, right? It has taken him almost 4 years to admit that he lost the election in 2020, but here he is doing it.
First time you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that, and lost by a whisker. And look what happened to the world with all of the war.
Are people onto this? This is kind of a big moment. I'm surprised more people aren't making a bigger deal, right? He said something to this effect several times, but it was hard to tell if he was just speaking in the wrong way, or, you know what I mean? There wasn't, that is, he said, I lost by a whisker.
And all of the problems. And look what happened with inflation, because inflation's just eating up our country, eating it up. So it's too bad. But there are a lot of things that could happen. We have to get those wars settled. We have to get, I'll tell you, you have to get Ukraine done. That could end up in a third world war. So could the Middle East. So
maybe let's talk about what
the Middle East is actually more likely. And I've talked about this before. So when you look at it from Russia's perspective, in Ukraine, the majority of international opinion is against Russia, right? Russia unambiguously invaded Ukraine, and there's not a lot of people that are siding with him, aside from the people that are getting cheap gas from Russia, or they are somehow tied to Russia in some way. Most of the countries in the world see that as Russia, bad, right? When you look at what's going on in the Middle East, right, it does actually involve the United States and Russia. The United States being close allies with Israel, and Russia being allies with Iran. And in that situation, the sympathy of the majority of the world is actually more with Iran because of the just outright genocide that's been going on ever since October 7th. And so from Russia's perspective, if they're going to escalate a conflict, right, they're going to more likely escalate the conflict where they've got more sympathy, right? Because that means that you will have less people siding with your opponent, and you'll have more people siding with you. So actually, I think that what's going on in, Israel right now is more dangerous as far as possibly driving us towards World War III than the other way around. That being said, Trump has absolutely aggravated that. Chad, Obama negotiated a nuclear treaty with Iran in order to make sure that they weren't going to take some of their spent nuclear fuel from their nuclear power plants and process it into weapons, right? Obama signed that deal. Trump blew up that deal. Why? Because one of his donors, the same reason that he allowed the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem, right? The same donor, and in fact, that he's essentially doing the doing like what she wants, right? And so for him to talk about like what's going on in Israel, right? He caused what's going on in Israel, like his failed negotiation with his failed son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who he's sitting down. The guy has no diplomatic experience. Trump says, my son-in-law will go down and negotiate the peace with Israel and with other countries in the Middle East and with Palestine. Nope. We're going to go right around Palestine. We don't need to talk to Palestine. We don't need to talk to Palestinians. We don't need to involve them at all. Like, they literally go around the Palestinians in negotiations about Palestine, right? Hence, you've got October 7th. So yeah, Trump caused the situation that's going on right now. Is Trump's shitty son-in-law and the failed diplomacy that went on there that brought this into being. And now he's got the gall to be like, oh my gosh, that's a really dangerous situation. It could cause World War III. No shit, Trump. No shit that could cause World War III, but that's on you. That's on you.
What it takes to negotiate with somebody like Putin or Zelensky. Do you think Putin would be willing to give up any of the regions they already captured?
I don't know. I can tell you that all of this would have never happened, and it would have been very easy because you don't have, like, that question wouldn't be asked. You know, that's a tougher question. Once that starts happening.
Wait, did you hear what he said, though? He said that he would have negotiated before the war happened, right? So that tells you that Trump was willing to give up part of Ukraine without Russia even invading. I don't know. Make of that what you will.
Because he has taken over a lot of territory. Now, I guess they're...
Like, if he wants to claim that this wouldn't have happened with me, that means that he was willing to play ball with Putin and give him some of what he wanted in order to stave off, like, a full-scale invasion, like what happened, right? But that's still kind of fucked up.
They're insurgents now too, right? So, you know, it's a little bit interesting that's happening, and that it can happen. And it's interesting that Putin has allowed that to happen. Look, that's one that should have.
Why would they negotiate with Palestine? Because they're talking about Palestine. That's what the negotiations were about. They cut out a major party in the negotiations, right? Why would they negotiate Palestine? Maybe because you don't want October 7th to happen. You don't want to leave Palestine, you know, in that situation with no possible hope, where they're literally cut out of negotiations that involve them, right? That's why, if you care about the people that are fucking dying right now in the Middle East, then yeah, you would have wanted to involve the Palestinians. You would have wanted to solidify a peace, a lasting peace. And for that to happen, you have to have a partner for peace on the other side. And that's still the problem. That's still the problem with a ceasefire, with getting a ceasefire through, right? People in Israel now, they want a ceasefire. They want to bring their hostages home. And Netanyahu has blown up negotiations again and again and again. And the only reason we're here with this set of, like, bad choices is because of Trump's failed diplomacy using his son-in-law. Can I drive that point home far enough, right? Jared Kushner has got no diplomatic experience. There's nothing in his life that would make you think, oh yeah, this is the guy to send in, other than he's fucking family. That's pure ass nepotism. Trump outsourced, do you understand, diplomacy, which is supposed to be done by diplomats, to a non-diplomat whose only reason for being tapped was his relationship to the Trump family. Do you get it? Is it clicking? Okay, good.
Never started. We have to get it stopped. Ukraine is being demolished. They're destroying a great culture that's largely destroyed.
What do you think works better in those?
People in Israel, they want the hostages back, Katie. Am I correct in that? If you're saying they don't want an end to the genocide that's going on in Gaza, you're probably right about that. All right, so I talked about this when we started. Thanks for joining us, Katie. But if you joined earlier, you would have heard me say that this is unfortunately not being done out of concern for the humanitarian toll in Gaza or the Palestinian people. This has been being done because people want their family members back, because people want the hostages back. And Netanyahu had a chance to get those hostages that were, you know, recently found dead. They could have been had a ceasefire been signed earlier. Those names were on the list, right? When they did the negotiations and they made the list of, like, you know, you're going to get these people back, right? Those names were on the list, right? So my understanding of what's going on right now in Israel in terms of the general strike, in terms of the protest, is that it's about the failure of Netanyahu to sign a deal which would have returned the hostages. And if I'm not mistaken, that deal is some form of ceasefire, not maybe the one that you or I would like to see signed, but they do want the hostages, but they don't care about the ceasefire. Well, yeah, okay, I agree with you there. I don't think you're wrong there, Katie. But to get the hostages back, that requires that the negotiation that's going on for that is a ceasefire. But yeah, no, in terms of the intent to further marginalize the Palestinians, in terms of the intent to continue settlements, and in terms of the intent to establish what seems like a one-state solution, but the wrong kind of one-state solution, right? where essentially Gaza and the West Bank are annexed. Yeah, that does seem to be the way things are. That does seem to be the zeitgeist in Israel.
Those kinds of negotiations, leverage of, let's say, friendship, the carrot or the stick, friendship, or sort of the threat of using the economic and military power.
So it depends on who the person is. Everyone's different. Negotiation's interesting because it depends on who the person is. And then you have to guess or know through certain knowledge which is, more important, the carrot or the stick. And with some people it's the stick, and with some people it's the carrot. I think the stick probably is generally more successful in that, we're talking about war. But the kind of destruction that we're witnessing now, nobody's ever seen. I mean, it's a terrible thing. And we're witnessing it all over. We're witnessing it in all parts of the world. And a lot of things are going to get started. Look what's going on with China. Look at Japan. They're starting to rearm now. They're starting to rearm because China's getting, taking over certain islands. And there's a lot of danger in the war right now in the world. There's a great possibility of World War III. And we better get this thing done fast, because 5 months with people like her and him, he's checked out. He just goes to the beach and thinks he looks good in a.
He took a vacation. Like how you were on the golf course for most of your term, Donald Trump? He took a summer vacation is what he fucking did.
Bathing suit.
Oh God, we're going to talk about his bathing suit. Do we have pictures of the Biden bathing suit? Look, I imagine Biden being old enough to where he wears like it's like a unitard. What do you call those old fashioned bathing suits?
Which he doesn't. He sort of checked out. Hey, look, you can't blame him. That was a coup. They took it over. They took over the president.
Yeah, it's kind of funny he didn't say anything about being at a coup. It's kind of funny that he was the only one with the power, and that had he wanted to stay in, he could have stayed in. It's kind of funny that he didn't say, well, I'm being forced out. Nancy Pelosi has told me that they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment. This is a sad day. He didn't roll into the DNC the way that Donald Trump had this fantasy of Biden rolling into the DNC night one, right, when he spoke, and saying, I'm not giving up so easily, Jack. All you delegates out there, you need to vote for me. I'm the one who they selected, and I want to run, right? Donald Trump thought that somehow out of nowhere was going to come like a resurgent Biden, and he was going to decide that he wanted to be the candidate, and somehow he would get his 1v1 versus Biden. But sadly for this man, for this sad old man, that is not to be.
Deal. The whole presidential thing was taken over in a coup. He had 14 million votes. She had no votes, not one. And nobody thought it was going to be her. Nobody wanted it to be her. She was a joke until 6 weeks ago, when they said we're going to have to, politically, they felt they had to pick her. And if they didn't pick her, they thought there'd be a problem.
Dak Katie, just to be clear, are you saying that the majority of Israelis at this moment support fully the Netanyahu position?
I don't know if that's right or not. I actually don't think it's right, but they thought it was right.
Like, as in they're okay with the hostages staying where they are?
And now immediately the press comes to their aid.
If we can go back to China on negotiation, how do we avoid war with China in the 21st century?
Well, there are ways now. Here's the problem. If I tell you how, and I'd love to do it, but if I give you a plan, like I have a very exacting plan how to stop Ukraine and Russia, and I have a certain idea, maybe not a plan, but an idea for China, because we're in a lot of trouble. They'll be in a lot of trouble too, but
you don't support Netanyahu.
We're in a lot of trouble. But I can't give you those plans, because if I give you those plans, I'm not going to be able to use them. They'll be very unsuccessful. Part of it's surprise, right?
Right.
But they won't be able to help us much.
So you have a plan of what to say to Putin.
Okay, well, if you go back over the VOD, I think you'll find that at no point did I imply that there were that a peacenik movement had taken over Israel, and that they want the hostages returned, from what I understand, and that return of the hostages would involve a ceasefire. So although they might not want the ceasefire, like I said, there's still plans, for more settlements in certainly in the West Bank, moving towards what looks like an annexation of the West Bank, and either an annexation of the West Bank and a displacement of a lot of those people into Gaza, or a annexation of both. At this, maybe that's like the long term view, but
yeah, I know.
Take office.
No, I had a very
I'm not Pollyannish about this.
good relationship with him, and I had a good relationship with Zelensky too. But I had a very good relationship with Putin.
Tough topic, but important. You said lost by a whisker.
That is a really important topic. Let's talk about the 2020 election. What's he going to say?
I'm an independent. I have a lot of friends.
Sure you are, Lex. Sure you are.
Who are independent. Many of whom like your policies, like the fact that you're a deal maker, like the fact that you can.
Trump's peace plan included an annexation of 30% of the West Bank.
End wars, but they are troubled.
He's depending on a surprise as a negotiation tactic. He is an imbecile.
By what happened in the 2020 election, and statements about widespread fraud and this kind of stuff, fake electoral scheme.
Omega Star says, regardless, it's very heartening to see these huge protests.
What can you say to those independent voters to help them decide who to vote
Right. I think the fraud was on the other side. I think the election was a fraud.
Oh my God.
Many people felt it was that, and they wanted answers. And when you can't challenge an election, you have to be able to challenge it. Otherwise,
You did. You challenged it many times in court. You have a ton of lawyers. They all suck. They all brought, spurious claims of this and that. And the court slapped it down like the stinky turd that it is.
it's going to get worse, not better. And there are lots of ways to solve this problem. Go to paper ballots. Do it the easy way. I mean, the paper ballots, and you have voter ID, and you have same-day voting, and you have proof of citizenship, which is very important, because we have people voting that are not citizens. They just came in, and they're loading up the payrolls. They're loading up everything. They're putting students in schools. They don't speak a word of English, and they're taking the seats of people that are.
Wait, I'm sorry. I lost track. I thought we were talking about the 2020 election. Where did we derail? Chat, this might be him weaving. Like, seriously, like dude may be weaving here. Do you know about Trump's weaving? Wait, do I really not have more? Oh, no. YouTube's being slow. Let's just.
You have proof of citizenship, which is very important, because we have people voting that are not citizens. They just came in, and they're loading up the payrolls. They're loading up everything. They're putting.
Okay, I'm sorry. What the fuck?
And you have
Where
to
did-
be able to challenge it. Otherwise,
Okay, you have to be able to challenge it.
it's going to get worse, not better. And there are lots of ways to solve this problem.
I want to
Go
clarify
paper
something
ballots.
before going forward,
Do it
because
the easy way.
the
I mean,
first
paper ballots
piece of
and-
confusion, I think,
God
about
damn
the
it.
relationship
No. We're not trying to watch Haas here. Oh my God. Okay, so something's really screwed up, because I should have had this, oh no, maybe it's on the wrong playlist, chat. Maybe it's on the wrong playlist. This is so frustrating. We are definitely not taking a MAGA communism detour here. Let's get back to the Trump thing. I just wanted to show you something that Trump's been.
You have voter ID, and you have same-day voting, and you have proof of citizenship, which is very important because we have people voting that are not citizens. They just came in and they're loading up the payrolls. They're loading up everything. They're putting students in schools. They don't speak a word of English. And they're taking the seats of people that are...
I really don't get how we got from there to there. All right, here we go, chat. I've got the weave for you. Nope. Oh my God, I hate how Twitter works now. Or rather, does not work. Okay, we're just gonna do it like this. Fuck. Also, by the way, fuck you, Elon Musk. Like, this website used to actually work.
I do the weave. You know what the weave is?
You know what the weave is, chat? He does the weave. He's doing the weave, all right?
I do the weave. You know what the weave is? I'll talk about like 9 different things and they all come back brilliantly together. And it's like, and
it's like an episode of Seinfeld, chat. He's you know.
Mine that are like English professors, they say, it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen.
He's just doing the weave, chat. We're like, you know, he's not ridiculous and rambling. It's us. It's our minds that are unable to comprehend the brilliant rhetorical tactic by Trump called the weave.
But the fake news, you know what they say? He rambled. That's not rambling. When you have, what you do is you get off a subject to mention another little tidbit, then you get back onto the subject, and you go through this, and you do it for 2 hours, and you don't even mispronounce one word.
Telling a crowd.
Well, I mean, like, the whole thing is he doesn't want people to actually track on what he's saying because he's so full of shit. It is not the weave. It is how he hypnotizes his base, right? They can't tell what he's talking about. They can't follow him. And so they just kind of zone out. And then at the end of the speech, they like clap. That's our guy. That's our guy. Yeah, what a fucking genius. I couldn't even understand what he's saying because it's too complicated, because he's too smart. He's too much of a genius. But chat, this is the real weave right here. This is the actual weave. That's what the weave really is. Anyway, let's get back to the
citizens of our country. So, look, we have the worst border in the history of the world. We have coming into our country right now millions and millions of people at levels that nobody's ever seen. I don't believe any country's ever seen it. And they would use sticks and stones not to make it happen, not to let it happen. We don't do anything. And we...
What? Bro is losing me now.
We have a person who was the border czar, who now said she wasn't really the border czar, but she was. She was the border czar, but she was in charge of the border. And we have her.
Translation, she was tasked with negotiating with certain countries that have high amounts of immigration going to the United States. That's they informally call that the border czar, but it's not like a title. There's no border czar. She's the vice president. That's her job, right? The vice president serves at the pleasure of the president and doesn't really have any official duties other than breaking up a tie in the Senate. I go back to this time and time again, right? The official duty of the vice president is to, is to, if there's a tie in the Senate, they cast the deciding vote. There's no other official duties. And even that, chat, let's say that a vice president were to vote the way that their president didn't want them to, the president would probably replace them, right? So at every turn, they serve at the pleasure of the president, and the president's pleasure, the president's desire was for Kamala to negotiate with countries like Guatemala over, things involving immigration. That was the border czar, right? As a border czar, it is not an effective use of your time. Like, and I keep on talking about this as like it's a real thing, but like, yeah, it's like an informal thing. Like, it's a president saying, when you get made a czar, right? It's like the president saying, I'm going to hand this off to you, right? I don't have time to go to Guatemala and do this negotiation. You're going to go do the negotiation myself. There you go, right? It's very informal. What Donald Trump seems to want her to do is to go and take a beach chair to the border and like hold a barbecue down there. That somehow the vice president is going to raise the morale of the Border Patrol by like 5 points. They get a +5 for morale while the vice president is within like 20 miles or something. Like it doesn't make sense. There's no point in that, right? This is his complaint. She didn't go to the border. What the fuck is she going to do at the border? The same thing that you do where you pose for pictures? You pose with border guards? You pose by the wall? You know, you do a photo op? Is that effective border policy? Or might her doing negotiations, because like chat, I keep on pointing us back to this, right? The biggest factor as far as immigration goes is actually foreign policy, the foreign policy of the United States, which is, I don't know if you've checked, but a worldwide hegemon, right? The United States has power, has influence over every single country out there, especially countries in the Western Hemisphere. And so when the United States has a policy, like let's say sanctions against Venezuela, and it causes hyperinflation in Venezuela, then those people are going to be more likely to leave their home, because like nobody's like, you know, pulling up their roots and leaving their home and making like 1,000-mile trek to immigrate into the United States without something being really fucked up at home. And most often the root cause of that fucked up situation at home, as it is with Venezuela, is U.S. foreign policy. In this case, Trump's foreign policy. How ironic is that? Trump makes a bad policy, it destabilizes things in Venezuela, and as a result, there's immigration, which he then blames on Biden. He causes the immigration, right? He fucks up Venezuela, and then he blames it on Biden, right? This is what's so frustrating about dealing with this guy and dealing with the media, because they cannot track that far. That is too many moving parts to them. For them, like, right, I feel like I've explained it pretty quickly, pretty succinctly. It's not that deep, it's not that hard, it's very understandable once you realize that nobody's like trying to like leave their home unless there's a reason for that. And time after time again, the United States and its foreign policy is the reason. So Kamala Harris was involved in foreign policy, in negotiation with other countries in order to try to deal with the root cause of immigration, instead of spending billions of dollars on a wall that's literally falling apart. You can see pieces of this guy's wall right now, like falling apart. It's breaking. It wasn't well built. Like he fucked up. He built the wall fucking fell down, right? And in general, like you're going to be more effective with changing the U.S. foreign policy than you are going to be with trying to hermetically seal a motherfucking line on the map.
Her, and she's saying very strongly, "Oh, I did such a good job. She was horrible, horrible. The harm she's done." But we have people coming in from other countries all over the world, not just South America, and they're coming in from prisons and jails,
and they're coming in from asylums, including, but not limited to, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Lex, he'd like to have you for dinner. You're a big guy, Lex. I'm sure Hannibal Lecter would love to have you for dinner. Well, guess what? He's coming into our country thanks to Biden and Harris, thanks to their policies. They're bringing in the asylum inmates. They're bringing in the criminals. They're bringing in everyone. They're sending all the bad people over. There's like Red Rover, let asylum inmates come over. And they're coming over. And the border guards, they're helpless. They're like holding their hands together, trying to stop them. But the asylum inmates, they just run right through. And that's why we got, sorry, chat. It's
they're coming in from mental institutions.
Oh, thank you.
And insane asylums.
Thank you, Katie.
And this,
come on, can we please get the late great Hannibal Lecter once more? I feel like, chat, that his campaign team has talked to him, and they have 86 the late great Hannibal Lecter. They have made in no uncertain terms he is not supposed to say that anymore. He hasn't said it in a while.
Criminals, right off the street they take them, and they're being given to our country. Drug dealers, human traffickers. We're destroying our country. This is a sin, what's been allowed to take place over the last 4 years. We're destroying our country. And we'll see.
Yeah, I remember the part where Jesus was like, feed the poor and visit the prisoners. But oh yeah, the immigrants, fuck them, build the wall. That's what it's a sin. It's a sin. That's definitely what Jesus would have been big about, building the wall, right? he would have been like, if he could have built the wall, then maybe they could have used all that wood that and they wouldn't have been able to crucify him. And then he'd be alive today, chat, to be able to vote for Trump. That's how it could have been. That's how it could have been.
How that all works out. But it's not even believable. And now you saw in Aurora, Colorado, a group of very tough young thugs from Venezuela.
Dude just said young thug. I don't think that's a young thug reference, though.
Taking over big areas, including buildings. They're taking over buildings. They have their big...
They're taking over buildings.
Rifles.
They got their tracksuits.
But they're taking over buildings. We're not going to...
Wait, why does Lex Fridman have the picture?
Let this happen. We're not...
That's like me having the Dao De Ching when somebody in chat mentions it. That's like, it's too coincidental.
Not going to let them destroy our country. And in those countries, crime is way down. They're taking them out of their prisons.
Crime is way down. Look, like, this is the thing. Like, he's never showed those statistics, right? And what he's proposing, yeah, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, right? The idea that a country is like emptying their jails, emptying their prisons, emptying their asylums. They're literally like sending like that. It makes it sound like it's not even about, like, I don't even know. It is literally like an absurdist game of Red Rover that's going on in his mind as far as immigration, right? And he never has to show shit for it. Like the media, when he talks about this stuff, they talk to his campaign, because generally what will happen is, if a president makes a claim, they'll sort of cite a source, right? If the source isn't cited, the media goes to the campaign and they ask, hey, your candidate said yada, 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 yada. What's the source for that? The media is asked, and there's no source. The source is he made it the fuck up.
It's good because good for them. I do the same thing. By the way, if I ran one of those countries, any country in the world, I would make sure that America has every one of our prisoners. Every one of our criminals would be here. I can't believe they're going.
Let's say Red Rover, let Hannibal come over.
Slowly, but some aren't. But they all are doing.
He's mixed up by his own narrative. Like, I'm surprised they haven't gotten all the prisoners released already, and I'm surprised, but don't worry, folks, they'll do it. They're sending the late great Hannibal Lecter over, so.
And
he'll be eating you with a nice Chianti and fava beans very soon.
Can't let that happen. They're emptying out their prisons and their mental institutions into the United States.
How have we ended up in a situation where a presidential candidate is able to tell a lie over and over again? And, like I said, they probably they have contacted the Trump campaign, but they're not like hitting him on this in every single interview. Like Lex Fridman should be like, that's great, Donald. Citation, please. What's your source? Where are you getting this from? Where's this coming from?
Of America.
It's vibes. It's a vibes-based narrative.
Okay, we can't let that happen.
So a lot of people believe that there was some shady stuff that went on with the election.
So getting back to the election, which I talked about, I was trying to talk about before you invoked the weave, right? Before you invoked the weave. Getting back to, yeah, and he says that he's in charge of it. Like, right, his explanation, for people say that I ramble. I don't ramble, I weave. I talk about this, I talk about that, I get back to the other thing, but he didn't actually get back to it. He wove, he zigged, but he didn't zag. You know what I'm saying? He didn't zag back. He didn't get back to the original topic.
Whether it's media bias or big tech, but still the claim of widespread fraud is the thing that bothers people.
Well, I don't focus on the past. I focus on the future. I mean, I talk about how bad the economy is, how bad inflation.
That's literally what his campaign has probably told him to say.
Is. How bad things like, which is important, Afghanistan was, in my opinion.
This whole section is about the 2020 election. Lex Fridman started out with a question, right? Given that Trump did acknowledge that he lost by a hair, but then when asked again, he was basically like, fraud, it was fraud, right? So he's kind of back on his bullshit. But yeah, he goes into immigration, apropos of nothing. And now Lex Fridman tries to redirect him, tries to underail the question and be like, hey, buddy, I asked you about the 2020 election. Let's talk about that. He's on to Afghanistan. He's on to Afghanistan. What the fuck? Lex Fridman has one of those Weinstein brothers on all the time. Fridman lets anything through. Yeah, that's true.
The most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to our country. And because of that, I think Putin went in. When he saw how stupid we were, Putin went in. But it was the most embarrassing.
Wait, Putin went into Afghanistan? What?
Moment in the history of our country.
What? Yeah, no, for the record, chat, Russia did invade Afghanistan in like 1978 or something, right?
I really believe that. But
one in chat, if you think that Lex Fridman is gonna ask him once again about the 2020 election.
You know, we left 13 dead soldiers. Think of it, 13 dead soldiers, many soldiers horrifically hurt with arms and legs and everything else gone.
With arms and legs and everything else, yeah. That was definitely, yeah, Luke Bovine is correct. That was the USSR, not Putin. Yeah. I mean, like, so there was a invasion of Afghanistan by the USSR.
We left hostages.
What's he talking about? Putin went in there.
Behind. We left Americans behind. We left.
Oh my God! Did I get the name right? The year right? Shakespeare.
Military equipment, the likes of which nobody's ever left behind before.
Sarah says Lex is like a worse version of Joe Rogan. Yeah, I think I said before he's like a better version because maybe he's less conspiracy minded. But yeah, in terms of follow-up questions, probably worse.
Billions and billions.
Yeah, thumbs up for all those dead soldiers. He's literally the meme, isn't he? You know the meme? The meme of the guy like squatting down at a grave and like, is he doing like a thumbs up? I can't remember. Doing like a, you know what I'm talking, what is that meme called, chat?
Of dollars of equipment. They're now selling the equipment. They're one of the largest arms dealers in the world. And very sad, very sad. And you know, we were there for a long time. I was going to get out. We were getting ready to get out. Then we got interrupted by the election. But we would have been out with dignity and strength. We were having very little problem with the Taliban when I was there because they knew
this was Trump.
It would be tough.
This was literally Trump.
Abdul was the leader. And we got along fine. He understood. But, you know, they were killing a lot of our people before I came down. And when I got there, I spoke to him. I said, can't do it.
Again, you're talking about a forever war. You always hear this from right-wingers. They think that the Trump is the candidate of peace. Now, look, does that come from nowhere? No, it actually doesn't. It actually doesn't, right? Because the Democrats far too often are incredibly hawkish. And usually there's no downside for that because they're up against like George W. Bush, right? That's Mitt Romney, right? They're up against bigger hawks, right? But at this point, this is a weakness of the Democratic candidates that Bannon has actually exploited. And they're able to like try to sell Trump as some kind of a candidate of peace because he's an isolationist. But in reality, you know, he is somebody who was president during the 4 of the latest years of the Afghanistan invasion and who did not withdraw U.S. troops, who did not end a forever war. That's why they call them forever wars, right? The U.S. was in Afghanistan for like 20 plus years, right? You would think that as the president of peace, right, that this guy would at least get the United States out of a occupation that never should have happened in the first place and that's gone on for 20 years. But no, he was fine to pass that on to Biden and now attack Biden for it, right? Biden did the right thing. Biden ended the war. And yeah, you know what? When you put in a puppet government, things will go bad when you pull out. Look at Vietnam. Right?
Don't do it anymore. We went 18 months.
I mean, bad for the United States. Obviously, the Vietnamese were happy to
before this happened,
get us the fuck out of there.
This horrible day happened. We went 18 months and nobody was shot at or killed.
What do you think that was, the carrot or the stick?
That's not true. He's lying about that.
In that case, in Afghanistan,
The stick.
worked.
definitely
So
the
the
stick.
threat of military force.
That was the stick. Yeah, it doesn't.
No, I think there was a lot more carrot, honestly. Didn't he free like a bunch of prisoners? And like there was a bunch of shit that he did that actually made the situation worse when the withdrawal actually did take place.
Have to be, but that was the stick.
Well, let me just linger on the election a little.
Yeah, let me linger on the election. The one question that you do not seem to want to answer, Mr. Weave.
A little bit more. For this election, it might be a close one. What
It might be a close one, yeah. I mean, it might be. It's looking a little less close lately, but
can we do to avoid the insanity and division of the previous election, whether you win or lose?
Well, I hope it's not a close one. I mean, I don't know how people can vote for somebody that has destroyed our country. The inflation, the bad economy, but to me, in a way, the worst is what they've allowed to happen at our border, where they've allowed millions of people to come in here from places that you don't want to know about.
what the fuck? What is this? Let me ask you about the 2020 election. Yeah, actually immigration. Okay, let me ask you about the 2020 election again. Oh, Afghanistan. Let me ask you about can we go back to the 2020 election? Immigration.
And I can't believe that that's going to be a close election. We're leading in the polls, but
Now, look, this is the kind of thing that, I don't know, has he just done so much debate prep that he's got this, like, he might have practiced changing questions that are not good for his side, right? Pivoting on those and talking about something else. This is something that candidates do a lot in debates. And so it could be that. It could be that he's just kind of practiced for the debate so much that he's just like got this. They asked you about 2020. What are you going to do? I'm going to say immigration. They ask you again? What are you going to do? I'm going to say Afghanistan. They ask you a third time. What are you going to do? I'm going to go back to immigration.
and it looks close, but I think in the end, it's not going to be a close election.
What do you think is the right way to solve the immigration crisis? Is mass deportation one of the solutions you would think about?
Well, you've got to get the criminals out of here fast, right? The people from mental institutions, you got to get them back into their mental
Yeah,
institutions.
you got to deal with the Hannibal Lecters.
No country can afford this. It's just too much money. You look at what's happening in New York and Chicago and LA and lots of places, and you take a look at what's happening. There's no country can afford this. We can't afford it. And we've got to get the bad ones out immediately, and the rest have to be worked on. It's happened before. Dwight Eisenhower was sort of a moderate president, moderate type person, but he hated when he saw people pouring into the country, and they were nothing like now. I probably got elected in 2016 because of the border. And I told people what was happening, and they understood it. And I won the election, I think, because of the border. Our border is 25 times worse right now than it was in 2016. I had it fixed. I had it the last week of the famous chart that I put up was exactly that. The chart. When I looked to the right, I said, there's the chart. That was not a pleasant experience. But the chart that I put up said, and that was done by Border Patrol, that was the lowest number that we've ever had come into our country in recorded history. And we have to get it back to that again. We will.
Let me ask you about Project
That was COVID.
2025. So you've publicly said that you don't have any direct connection to Project
Nothing.
20.
I know nothing about it. And they know that too. Democrats know that. And I purposely haven't read it because I want to say to you, I have no idea what it's all about. It's easier than saying I read it and, all of the things. No, I purposely haven't read it. And I've heard about it.
You don't need to read it because those people are in your administration, right? The people that wrote Project 2025, 90% of them have worked for Trump before, have either been in his administration or his transition team. These people are connected to Trump. Trump doesn't need to fucking read it. And in fact, in general, this guy's not big on policy. He likes to outsource his policy. He's not really up on things. Let's see if I can put it a nice way, right? He's not really up on things as far as policy and stuff like that goes, right? What he knows how to do is he knows how to lie. He knows how to talk about Hannibal Lecter. He knows how to tell stories about sharks and batteries, right? He doesn't know the details of how he is going to expand the already imperial presidency into an even more authoritarian office, right? But the people working for him do. And that's what Project 2025 is about, is how are they going to fire civil servants and then replace them with Trump cronies, right? It's stuff like that.
About things that are in there that I don't like. And there's some things in there that everybody would like. But there are things that I don't like.
Wait, I thought you hadn't read it. I thought you hadn't read it. God, this guy's transparent.
At all. And I think it's unfortunate that they put it out, but it doesn't mean anything because it has nothing to do with me. Project 25 has absolutely nothing to do with me.
Except for like 90% of the people that are involved in writing that stuff are former Trump officials.
You posted recently about marijuana and that you're okay with it being legalized, but it has to.
So, Mr. President, I've got to ask you, indica or sativa?
Be done safely. Can you explain your policy there?
Well, I just put out a paper. And first of all,
Flower or concentrate, Mr. President?
medical marijuana has been amazing. It's been, I've had friends and I've had others and doctors telling me that it's been absolutely amazing, the medical marijuana. And we put out a statement that we can live with the marijuana. It's got to be a certain age, to buy it. It's got to be done in a very concerted, lawful way. And the way they're doing it in Florida, I think, is going to be actually good. It's going to be very good. But it's got to be done in a good way. It's got to be done in a clean way. You go into some of these places, like in New York, it smells all marijuana. You've got to have a system where there's control. And I think the way they've done it in Florida is very good.
So we're going to take the stank out of the weed, and everything's going to be good. We're going to be making new marijuana that doesn't smell.
Do you know anything about psychedelics? So I'm not a
Look, Bovine says Baron loves it.
drug guy, but I recently did ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that speak to sort of the health benefits and
Make it stinkier.
spiritual benefits of these different psychedelics.
Right.
I think we'd probably have a better world if everybody in Congress took some mushrooms, perhaps. Now I know.
Can you imagine babysitting Congress? Chat, one in chat if you know what babysitting is. Anybody out there ever had to babysit? There's this thing that's called babysitting, right? When people do psychedelics, especially for the first time, as many members of Congress would be doing, were they to take Lex Fridman's suggestion, right? Then they would need a babysitter. They would need a guide on their psychedelic voyage. And I think that we couldn't come up with a better candidate for that than America's shaman, Q Shaman. We'll get Q Shaman in there to do a guided experience for these legislators, to guide them along the path towards recognizing the divinity of Kek, right? That's what they have to do. He's going to teach them 4chan spirituality, right? They're gonna worship the Egyptian frog god, Kek. They're gonna do a little meme magic, right? It's gonna be a good, this is a right wing, it's what a right wing drug trip is like. So some people have head and shoulders, knees and toes. Yeah, you got to watch people, right? Especially the first time. If they've never had experience with something like that, you cannot let them do it by themselves, right? That bad stuff can happen, right? At the very least, they'll freak out their friends. They'll approach somebody that they're friends with and start babbling to them about the essence of reality or something, and they'll freak their friends out. They'll scare their friends and family.
You stay away from all of that stuff. I know also veterans use it for dealing with PTSD and all that kind of stuff. So it's great, and it's interesting that you're thinking about being more accepting of some of these drugs, which don't just have a recreational purpose. But
so you know how I always tell you that Democrats being shitty, in other words, being too conservative, trying to play too centrist, that actually hurts them. That actually comes back on them. Here's an example of that, right? Joe Biden, before he gave up the ghost and decided to stop running, I mean, look, if his polls were so bad, he should have tried something like to get a national legalization going, or to actually really deschedule. I mean, he should have been a little bit more bold, right? This is something that Democrats should have done a long time ago. This is incredibly popular. incredibly popular.
A medical purpose,
Yeah.
a treatment purpose.
So we put out a statement.
Isn't that amazing that they've fucked around long enough to where the Republicans are like, yeah, we'll legalize, sure.
Today, we're going to put out another one probably next week, be more specific, although I think it's pretty
BG says let him trip it in a padded room.
specific. And we'll see how that all goes.
Look, Bovine says, I've been babysat and I've done it myself. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot less fun to babysit than it is to be babysat, but it's definitely important, especially on somebody's maiden voyage, so to speak, right? Their first time trying that stuff. They really do need somebody to watch them.
Because that's a referendum coming up in some states, but it's coming up, and we'll see how it does. I will say it's been very hard to beat it. You take a look at the numbers, it's been very hard to beat it. So I think it'll generally pass, but you want to do it in a safe way.
Speaking of marijuana, let me ask you about my good
Speaking of marijuana, Mr. President, edibles or flower?
friend Joe Rogan. So you had a bit of tension with him. So when he said nice things about RFK Jr., I think
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
you've said some not so nice things about Joe, and I think that was a bit unfair. And as a fan of Joe, I would love to see you do his podcast because he is
Wait, your pal Ashley says he can do that now and it would help Kamala? What do you mean?
legit the greatest conversationalist in the world. So
Yeah.
what's the story behind
Well,
the tension?
I don't think there was any tension. And
I think there was a little bit of tension. You made a tweet or a truth. I'm sorry, it was a truth saying, like, I wonder what Rogan's going to do next time he goes to UFC and he gets booed. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's not an issue right now because the brainworm has come home. The brainworm has returned to its natural habitat on the right, thus proving that the dude was never a Democrat to begin with. The dude was never a left-winger to begin with.
I've always liked him, but I don't know him. I mean,
Yeah, there's different schedules, right, for cannabis or like for substances, right, depending on whether they have like a medical use or not, and it makes it harder or easier to, like, say, for instance, run a study on. And Biden did, I think they rescheduled it like there's like Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, right? I don't remember what they changed it to, but they didn't go hard enough. Like, they should just be straight up trying to legalize. They should be straight up legalizing. We got the brainworms in chat.
I only see him when I walk into
Chat's got brainworms too.
the arena with Dana and I shake his hand. I see him there, and I think he's good at what he does, but I don't know about doing his podcast. I mean,
Wait, so you think it would help Kamala if Trump, like, said that he was gonna, or you think that it would help Kamala if she put that on the agenda to legalize?
I guess I'd do it, but I haven't been asked, and
Sassy says vape is better than edible, which is better than flower.
I'm not asking them, I'm not asking anybody.
It sounds like a challenging negotiation situation.
No, it's not. It's not really a negotiation.
Mr. President, Blinker or Benjamin?
And he's sort of a liberal guy, I guess, from what I understand. But he likes Kennedy. This was before I found this out before Kennedy came in with us. He's going to be great. Bobby's going to be great. But I like that he likes Kennedy. I do too. He's a different kind of a guy, but he's got
Definitely a different kind of guy.
some great things going. And
He's got some great things going in that Deathmobile of his, where he where he moves dead animals around.
I think he's going to be beyond politics. I think he could be quite influential in taking care
Look, Bovine says flower all the way.
of some situations that you probably
I'm a fan of flower myself, right? Anything else is too strong.
would agree should be taken care of.
The Joe Rogan post is an example.
Edible is a different kind of. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's hard to compare them.
I'd love to get your psychology about
I thought he said ketamine, not Kennedy. I mean,
behind the tweets and the post on truth. Are you sometimes being
yeah, I'm trying to get your psychology. I love that Lex Fridman is always turning it back to, like, psychology. What about the psychology? Like, what's your motivation? Are you more motivated by winning, or are you more motivated by not losing?
intentionally provocative, or are you just speaking your mind? And are there times where
Miska says edible does not impact me. Apparently, it's an enzyme thing. That's true. That's true. And if you know, right? Yeah, they can give you. I think, what do? They have you, like, swallow like a candy or something like that. And if you feel nothing, then you don't have the enzyme, right? And you're better off, like, not. Yeah, it's kind of a waste, right? Because, yeah, if you can't convert it into, wait, what is it? I'm trying to remember how that actually works biochemically.
you regret
Earthkeeper says flower.
Some of the truths
Yeah.
you've posted.
Yeah, I do. I mean, but not that often, honestly. I do a lot of reposting. The ones you get in trouble with are the reposts because you find down deep they're into some group that you're not supposed to be reposting. You don't even know if those groups are good, bad, or indifferent. But the reposts are the ones that really get you in trouble. When you do your own words, it's sort of easier. But the reposts go very quickly. And if you're going to check every single...
Yeah, what is the deal? He has reposted Nazis or something. Soul Life says a local liquor store was selling 10% THC shots. Interesting. I wonder if I need grapefruit juice. Wait, are you saying that it wouldn't work or something?
little symbol. And I don't know. It's worked out pretty well for me.
That's a pretty strong shot, maybe, too.
It's truth is very powerful. Truth, and it's my
That's why it's failing. That's why the stock it's very powerful. That's why the stock is headed in the lower right direction.
Platform, and it's been very powerful, very, very powerful. Goes everywhere. I call it my typewriter. That's actually my typewriter.
What are you doing usually when you're composing a truth? Like, are you chilling back on a couch?
Couches, beds.
Okay.
A lot of different things. I mean,
Like
in my mind, he does he goes to Kanye's daughter. He goes to Kanye's doctor, and he gets or Kanye's dentist, and he takes some nitrous, and then he truths it out.
night and just
I'd like to do some later night. I'm not a huge sleeper, but whenever I do them, past like 3 o'clock,
I'm not a huge sleeper.
they criticize you the next day. Trump was up truthing. Okay. Trump was truthing at 3 o'clock
Well, it's like if you post something unhinged, yeah.
in the morning. And there should be no problem with that. And then when you think about time zones, how do they know that you're like, in a time zone, like an Eastern zone?
Oh yeah, we got to say THC.
So, but every time I do it after like 2 or 3 o'clock, it's like, why is he doing that? But it's gotten, the
Miska says he sits on his golden toilet and he just
truth has
riffs.
become a very successful platform.
Phenomenally unsuccessful platform. Like basically, the truth is like the lolcow of platforms, just like he's the lolcow of presidents.
And I like doing it. And it goes everywhere. As soon as I do it, it goes everywhere.
the country seems more divided than ever.
Yeah.
What can you do to help alleviate some of that division?
Well, you can
Trump, listen, let's be real, okay? You could scrawl something on a piece of toilet paper, sign it DJT, toss it out the window, and that shit would go everywhere.
get rid of these two people. They're terrible. They're terrible. You don't want to have them running this country. They're not equipped to run it. Joe, it's a disaster.
Like, I love how he thinks it's because of truth. I love how he thinks it's because of truth. Yeah, it goes everywhere, because guess what? As long as it stays on truth, no one sees it. No one sees it. No one's using truth.
Okay. And
It's literally got to go elsewhere. It's got to go to Twitter. It's got to go to Facebook. It's got to go to Instagram. It's got to go to YouTube for people to see it.
Kamala, I think she'll end up being worse than him.
Yeah, sleeping in corp and ripping farts, too.
We'll see. I think a lot's now, the convention's over with, and I see I'm leading in just about all the polls now. They had their little honeymoon period, as they call it. And we'll see.
It's still a honeymoon, Donald, until you change the momentum, right? Until you have a good debate, you make a cogent criticism, until Kamala screws up, right? It's still the honeymoon. That's the thing. And it's 65. We've got like 65 days. Wait, is that right? We got September, we got October. Yeah. Yeah, we got September, October, and a little bit of November. Yeah, it's down to like 65 days, isn't it?
How that all goes, who knows? So.
From my personal opinion, I think
Truth is just a Trump blog spot at this point. Yeah, he's like the only account on Truth that anybody reads.
you are at your best when you're talking about a positive vision of the future versus criticizing the other side.
Yeah. I think you have to criticize, though. I think they're nasty.
So he's giving him probably what he's heard from his campaign, right?
Came up with a story that
They came up with a story. Yeah, they came up with a story. Whoa. No, I haven't seen this picture before. But that looks bad. Like, I don't know, chat. So you know the story? Wait. Americans who died in war are losers and suckers. So now that's an old reference to something that he said, I think, to General Kelly, right? To somebody on his own campaign, in his own administration, right? I think, I don't remember what Kelly's job was, but it kind of looks like him and his team traipsing over the graves of fallen veterans in Arlington. And if you look at it from this perspective, it's almost like you're the cemetery employee, right? Tasked with telling people you got to stay out of Section 60. You can't take pictures in Section 60. And here comes Trump and his team, and they're like, "We're gonna get our picture. We're gonna get our photo op. I got to thumbs up the corpse of the soldier. You know, I gotta do my thing."
I looked down and I called soldiers that died in World War I suckers and losers. Okay. Now, number one, who would say that? Number two, who would say it to military people? Nobody. It was
okay, wait, no. Who would say it? You. The guy that prefers soldiers that don't get captured, right? That are not POWs. You. It's totally something Trump would say.
Sorry, it's just a made-up story. And they like to repeat it over again. They know it was made up. I have 26 witnesses that nothing was said.
Sorry, that's not how it works, right? You got 26 sycophants that are going to attest to having been around you 24/7, having heard every word that came out of your mouth. So like,
I don't want to hear about that. Like she lied on McDonald's. She said that she
lied on McDonald's.
Worked at McDonald's. It's not a big lie, but it's a big lie. It's so, I mean, they just went and they checked. And unless you can show something, they don't talk about, the presses are going to follow up with it, but I'll keep hammering it.
Again, this is the same guy that makes up stories about Venezuela sending prisoners, sending mental asylum inmates, sending like all this laundry list of like bad people over to the United States. And he's never shown anything of it. He has nothing from that. He lies all the fucking time. And he's going to try to say that Kamala did not actually work at McDonald's. Also, she's not black. I don't know. What are we going to throw? What else are we going to throw in there, Trump? What else are we going to throw in there?
But she never worked at McDonald's. It was just sort of a cool thing to say. Hey, I worked at McDonald's,
It's a cool thing to say. That's the opposite. People make fun of you for working at McDonald's, right? That's not actually a cool thing to say. But it's something that a lot of people can relate to. Yeah, McDonald's is actually a fairly large employer in the U.S. A lot of people have worked at some point at McDonald's. So,
but one of the worst was 2 days ago. I went to Arlington at the request of people that lost their children. There'll always be children to those people. You understand that? That's not politically incorrect thing to say.
Methink thou doth protest too much, Donald.
I lost my child, but the child is a soldier, and lost the child.
The child is a soldier. We have child soldiers, folks.
Because of Biden and because of
they still have their inner child, even when they're a soldier out there defending the country in Iraq. Yes, defending the United States in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Kamala, just as though they had the gun in their hand, because it was so badly handled. It should have been done at Bagram, which is the big air base. It shouldn't have been done at a small little airport right in the middle of town.
What? Okay, now he's back to Afghanistan, I think.
People stormed it. It was a true...
So he's not going to answer the question about it says division here. He's not going to answer the question about Arlington, right? This is what he does. So he's got several topics that he thinks are really good for him, right? Immigration, Afghanistan, right? This is what his campaign has told him to pivot to, because you're seeing him do it again and again and again. When asked, like, you're asking him, like, completely different questions. How did he get from Kamala at McDonald's to Afghanistan? I don't understand.
Disaster.
Oh yeah, that's right, Chad. It's the weave. He did the weave. He was doing the weave. Right? Remember the weave?
In Pennsylvania.
I do the weave.
He does the weave. You know what the weave is?
Talk about like 9 different things, and they all come back brilliantly together. And it's like, and friends of mine that are like English professors, they say, it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. But the fake news, you know what they say? He rambled. That's not rambling.
He's doing the weave. He's doing the weave.
What you do is you get off a subject to mention another little tidbit.
He's bobbing and weaving is really what he's doing.
Then you get back onto the subject, and you go through this, and you do it for 2 hours, and you don't even mispronounce one
And
word.
people's eyes just glaze the fuck over. They don't know what you're saying.
Telling a crowd in
Anyway, the weave, chat. The weave.
And they asked me if I'd come and celebrate with them 3 years. 3 years. They died 3 years ago. And I said, I'm going to try. I got to know them because I brought them here, actually. One night, they almost all came here. And they said, I wonder if Trump will actually come and see us. I heard they were here. I came, so we stayed for like 4 hours listening to music up on a deck right upstairs. Beautiful. And they were great people. So they called me over the last couple of weeks and they said, we're going to have a reunion, our 3-year reunion. Would you be able to come? And it was very hard for me to do it logistically, but I said, I'll get it done. And I got there and we had a
Okay, so now he's back to, he's weaving. He's weaved back to the question.
beautiful time. I didn't run
I think this is the question.
away. I didn't just walk in, shake hands and walk out like people do. And I wasn't looking at my watch like Joe Biden does. And it was amazing. So I did it for them. I didn't do it for me. I don't need the publicity. I mean, I get more publicity probably.
There just happened to be cameras there, right? We just happened to take a TikTok and make a campaign ad at Arlington National Cemetery. Yeah.
Than anybody.
I didn't do it for me. No, it wasn't about me. It wasn't a photo op. No.
Better than me, but I think maybe more than anybody that's ever lived. I don't know, but I don't think anyone could have any more. Every time you turn on television, there's like 9 different stories, all on different topics, and they're all about Trump. As an example, you interview a lot of people.
I feel like he's boring Lex Fridman, and Lex Fridman is a boring guy.
Successful people. Let's see how you do with this interview versus them. Okay, I mean, I can tell you right now, you're going to get the highest numbers you've ever had by sometimes a factor of 10.
Okay, we're almost, chat. We're almost to the Epstein content.
When a Gold Star family asks me to come in and spend time with them, and then they said, sir, we did a ceremony, and then we went down to the graves, which was quite a distance away. They said, sir, would you come to the grave? And then they said when we were there, it's very sad actually, because these people shouldn't have died. They shouldn't have died. They died because of Biden and because of Kamala. They died because, just like if they pulled the trigger.
They died because of George W. Bush. Let's be real.
Okay. Now, I don't know if that's controversial
They should have never been there in the first place.
to say, but I don't think it is. Afghanistan was the most incompetently run operation I think I've ever seen, military or otherwise. They're incompetent. But the families asked me if I'd go. I did go. Then the family said, could we have a picture at the tombstone of my son? And we did. Son or daughter. There was a daughter too. And I took numerous pictures with the families. I don't know if anybody else was in the pictures, but they were mostly families, I guess. That was it. And then I left. I spent a lot of time with them. Then I left. And I get home that night and I get a call that the Biden administration with Kamala is accusing me of using Arlington for publicity. I was in use. Just the opposite. Just the opposite.
Arlington was using me for publicity.
And actually, did you see, it just came out, the family.
Is that the opposite?
He's actually put out a very strong statement defending me. They said, we asked him to be there.
Well, politicians and the media can play those games. And you're right. Your name gets a lot of views. You're
so now look,
legit the most famous person in the world.
When I look up Trump and Gold Star family, I find this. This is from 2016.
First, our thoughts and prayers
It's way too quiet.
with our veterans
Way too quiet.
and those who serve. If it was up to Donald Trump, he never would have been in America. He vows to build walls and ban us from this country. Donald Trump, you're asking Americans to trust you with their future. Let me ask you, have you even read the United States Constitution?
Does he even read? That's the real question. Can he read?
I will gladly lend you my copy. In this document, look for the words liberty and equal protection of law. Have you ever been to Arlington Cemetery? Go look at the graves of brave patriots who died defending United States of America. You will see all faiths, genders, and ethnicities. You have sacrificed nothing and no one.
So yeah, Donald J. Trump belittled the parents of a slain Muslim soldier who had strongly denounced Mr. Trump.
The family.
What? No, Hillary, you ruined everything. You ruined everything, including my stream. God damn it, Hillary, go away. Go away. Oh God, this is Maggie Haberman, actually, that wrote this. Donald J. Trump belittled the parents of a slain Muslim soldier who had strongly denounced Mr. Trump during the Democratic National Convention, saying the soldier's father had delivered the entire speech because his mother was not allowed to speak. Mr. Trump's comments in an interview with George Stephanopoulos on ABC News that will air on Sunday quickly drew quick and widespread condemnation and amplified calls for Republican leaders to distance themselves from the presidential nominee, with his implication that the soldier's mother had not spoken because female subservience expected in some traditional strains of Islam. His comments also inflamed his hostilities with American Muslims. Kaiser Khan, the soldier's father, lashed out at Mr. Trump in an interview on Saturday, saying his wife had not spoken at the convention because it was too painful for her to deal with her son's death. Mr. Trump, he said, is devoid of feeling the pain of a mother who sacrificed her son. So yeah, that was a little bit of a flashback when we were talking about Gold Star families.
But on the previous thing, in the spirit of unity, you used to be a Democrat.
Yeah.
Setting the politicians aside, what do you respect most about people who lean left, who are Democrats themselves or of that persuasion, progressives, liberals, and so on?
Can you steel man their arguments, Mr. Trump?
Look, I respect the fact that everybody's in there. And, you know, to a certain extent, life is what you do while you're waiting to die. So you might as well do
What?
Good job.
What?
I think in terms of
What?
what's happening now, I think, you know, we have a chance to save the country. This country's going down. And I called it with Venezuela. I called it with a lot of different countries. And this country's going
You made Venezuela. You ruined Venezuela, you asshole.
down. If we don't win this election, the election coming up on November 5th is the most important election this country's ever had. Because if we don't win it, I don't know that there'll be another election. And it's going to be a communist country or close.
And there's a lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
Well, she's a Marxist.
Her father's a Marxist,
That's right.
and she's
It's a
advocating.
little
She's a Marxist-Leninist.
unusual. You know,
She's advocating for some policies that are towards the direction of democratic socialism, let's say. But there's a lot of people that kind of know the way government works, and they say, well, none of those policies are going to actually come to reality. It's just being used during the campaign to, groceries are too expensive. We need them cheaper. So let's talk about price controls, and that's never going to come to reality.
it could come to reality. Look, I mean, she came out with price control. It's been tried like 121 different times at different places over the years, and it's never worked once. It leads to communism. It leads to socialism. It leads to having no food on the shelves, and it leads to tremendous inflation.
It's just
It's a bad idea.
See, the problem is that Trump's policy of laissez-faire attitudes towards price gouging during like national crises, that leads to greedflation. That leads to companies taking advantage of the situation and charging exorbitant prices. That leads to record profits while Americans are suffering and unable to be able to pay for a full, cart of groceries.
whenever we use terms like communism for her, and I don't know if you know this, but some people call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they call me a lot worse than I call them.
They do indeed. It's just sometimes.
So I figured it's all right to call them a communist. Even
Interesting, though. They'll call me something that's terrible, and then I'll hit them back. And they'll say, isn't it terrible what Trump said? I said, well, wait a minute, they just called me. So I believe you have to fight fire with fire. I believe they're very evil people. These
So there you go. He doesn't even mean it. He doesn't even fucking mean it.
evil people. You know, we have an enemy from the outside, and we have an enemy from
An enemy within. Yeah, you're talking like Hitler, bro.
within. And in my opinion, the enemy from within are radical left lunatics. And I think you have to fight back.
Whenever there's a lot of fighting fire with fire, it's too easy to forget that there's a middle of America that is that's moderate and kind of sees the good in both sides and just likes one side more than the other in terms of policies. Like I said, there's a lot of people that like your policies, that like your skill in being able to negotiate and end wars, and they don't see the the impending destruction of America.
You know, we had no wars when I was president. That's a big thing. Not since 78.
You had the Afghanistan war still going on. What are you talking about?
Years as that happened, but we had no wars when I was president.
Yeah, no, you just set in motion the events that are going on now in Israel and Gaza. You destabilized the situation with Iran, right?
We defeated ISIS, but that was a war that was started that we weren't anywhere near defeating. But think of it, I had no wars. And Viktor Orban, the prime minister of...
We're going to cite a dictator. We're going to cite a fascist dictator as our source, right? When I told you that Trump doesn't have any sources, I guess I was wrong. He's got Viktor Orban.
Hungary. So
you can say what you want. You know, some people feel like calling Trump a fascist is like is a stretch, right? But Viktor Orban is straight up that thing. Viktor Orban is exactly that.
The world has to have Trump back because everybody was afraid of Trump. Now, that's what he said. So I'm not using that term, but I think they respected me. But he said China...
That's a weird thing to say. Everybody was afraid of this guy. Let's get him back. Let's make people afraid again.
Afraid. Russia was afraid. Everybody was afraid.
You're afraid because he's unstable, right? That was the only fear that anybody was feeling, is that the guy with a nuclear football is the most unhinged wacko you could imagine.
And I don't care what word they use. Probably that's even a better word if you want to know the truth. But let's use the word respect. They had respect for me. They had respect for the country. I mean, I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the Russian pipeline. Nobody else could have done that. I ended it. It was done. Then Biden comes in and he gave it. He approved it. So we're defending Germany and these other countries for peanuts compared to what it's worth.
Should we tell him? Should we tell him, folks? Should we tell him what happened to the Nord Stream pipeline?
And they're paying the person we're defending them against billions and billions of dollars for energy. I said, how does that work? And we had it out with them.
Look, weird coincidence. Weird coincidence. It just happened to blow up. Nobody knows what happened.
Worked out good, and they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. Or you wouldn't even have a NATO right now. You wouldn't have NATO if it wasn't for me.
As the leader of the
What?
United States, you were the most powerful man in the world. As you mentioned, not only...
Look, I'm not Dylan Burns. I'm not a NATO dick writer or anything like that. But for him to claim like some kind of... you wouldn't have NATO right now, right? He's the most anti-NATO, president that there's been.
The most famous, but the most powerful. And if you become leader again, you will have unprecedented power. Just on your own personal psychology, what does that power do to you? Is there any threat of it corrupting how you see the world?
No, I don't think so. Look, I've been there for 4 years. I could have done a big number on Hillary Clinton. I thought it looked terrible to take the president's wife and put her in prison. She's so lucky. I didn't do anything. She's so lucky. Hillary is a lucky woman because I had a lot of people pushing me to. They wanted to.
They investigated Hillary. And they did not find a case, right? Comey even mentioned, when he drops the case, he brings it up. He makes a speech, or he puts out, something where he's like, yeah, Hillary Clinton, really bad person, really fucked up. This is really terrible by Hillary. That being said, we don't have a case against her. There is no case. There's no case. Yeah. So what you're talking about, Trump, that you could have done is violated the independence of the Department of Justice. Right? If you could have done something to Hillary, it would have been a violation. Like the Department of Justice is supposed to be independent. The AG is supposed to be independent. So he's talking about leaning on the AG. He's talking about he considered doing that. If anything, this is an admission of guilt.
They wanted to see something, but I could have done something very bad. I thought it looked so bad. Think of it. You have the president of the United States, and you also had Secretary of State, right? She was. But you're going to put the president's wife in prison? And yet when I got out...
your pal Ashley, Maduro did not put the sanctions on Venezuela. Nice try, though.
They have all these hoaxes. They're all hoaxes. But they have all these dishonest hoaxes, just like they did in the past with Russia.
Also, what do you think it does to a country like Venezuela when you tried to coup them multiple times, when you tried to take their leader out, right? What do you think that's going to cause? Do you think that's going to cause less support for somebody like Maduro, or do you think it might cause more support because now you've got an external enemy that's literally trying to take your dude out, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
It was a hoax. The 51 different, agencies or agents, that was a hoax. The whole thing was a hoax. There was so many hoaxes.
We're on to the hoax now. What hoax are we talking about? Russiagate? Russia.
Scams. And
you are the motherfucking scam lord of the world. Your entire existence is a scam. Your presidency is a scam. Some would say your reality show is a scam, but definitely Trump University, that's a scam. Your Bible is a scam. Your vodka is a scam. Your steaks are a scam. Everything about this guy is like gold-painted shit.
But I didn't want to put her in jail. And I didn't. And I explained it to people. You know, they say, lock her up, lock her up. It doesn't. We won. I said, we don't want to put her in jail. We want to bring the country together. I want to bring the country.
More likely, you talked to your AG, and you were like, let's put Hillary in jail. And the AG was like, Mr. President, actually, you won the election, blah, blah, blah. They gave you a lot of shit because they didn't want you fucking leaning on them. They didn't want to be compromised. They didn't want to be known as the AG who, like, went after. I mean, that, like, what he's talking about now is his attempt to do lawfare that apparently he was talked out of throughout his whole presidency, right? If left to his own devices, this guy would have like, racked up more shit than Nixon, right? But he had guardrails. He had people that were in places of power that knew that Trump didn't know what the fuck he was doing, and they'd be like, Mr. President, actually, they would talk him out of this, out of his bad ideas. But yeah, no, he's the one that said lock her up, and it sounds like he's the one that leaned on his AG, and it's just that the AG is supposed to be independent, so they pushed back, right? Whether it be Sessions or Bill Barr or whoever, they didn't want to go along with his corruption. That
Country together. You don't bring the country together by putting her in jail. But then when I got out,
no, you know what? Actually, God damn it, I got to disagree with you again, Trump. All right, I am far left. You are far right. All right. Hillary Clinton going to jail would not cause me to lose any sleep, if I'm being honest with you. That being said, from what I've seen, there isn't a crime. There isn't a reason for her to go to jail. There isn't a case to be pressed against Hillary Clinton to put her in jail, other than maybe like a war crimes kind of deal, like with The Hague, right? There might be an international case against Hillary Clinton, but there's not a U.S. federal case against Hillary Clinton. So, but yeah, no, if you like, I don't give a fuck. Seriously, I seriously, like, make Hillary like, I mean, I'm not. Far left and far right can agree Hillary fucking sucked.
they went to work on me. It's amazing. And they suffer from massive Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, here we go with the Trump derangement syndrome.
TDS. And
here we go.
I don't know if it's curable from their standpoint.
A lot of people are very interested in footage of UFOs.
Yes, that is the question you need to ask. He doesn't want to talk about TDS, so we're going to talk about UFOs instead.
The Pentagon has released a few videos, and there's been anecdotal reports.
We got Epstein coming up, so we're going to hear about Epstein, then we're going to get the fuck out of this. We might watch a little bit of the Sean Hannity interview, but we're going to move pretty quickly.
From fighter pilots. So a lot of people want to know, will you help push the Pentagon to release more footage, which a lot of people claim is available?
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I would do that. I'd love to do that. I have to do that. But they also push it.
But the thing is, you've already had 4 years. If this was a big issue, if you really cared about this, if there was something that the government's hiding from the American people as far as UFOs that Donald Trump is willing to, like, release, right? It would have happened already. You had your chance, bud.
Me on Kennedy. And I did release a lot, but I had people come to me and beg me not to do it. But I'll be doing that very early on. But
why didn't you do it before?
I would do that.
Why didn't you do it before?
There's a moment where you had some hesitation.
How could you look Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the face and tell him that you haven't looked into the suspicious circumstances? And legitimately, right, the Kennedy assassination is weird. And there's maybe some stuff that we don't know. But yeah, he's not serious about that. He's not fucking serious about that.
Why the hesitation?
I don't think I'm not involved in
Whoa.
doing that very early on.
Let's hear about Epstein. Are you ready for this? This is the moment, chat. This is Epstein time.
But I would do that.
There's a moment where you had some hesitation about Epstein, releasing some of the documents on Epstein. Why the hesitation?
I don't think I'm not in.
Wait. Do you remember what that interview was? I know what he's talking about. Like, Lex is actually referring to an interview. Oh my God. With Fox News. Let's find it, chat. We gotta find it. Trump, Fox News, Epstein. There we go. Trump, Fox News, Epstein. Ooh, wait, this is even better than I thought. Fox edited this.
Let's move on to Fox News editing part of Donald Trump's answer about whether he would release files related to Jeffrey Epstein out of an interview that aired on Fox and Friends earlier this week. Fox News then aired the entire interview with Trump ostensibly without much editing on, I think it was Will Kane's podcast that was uploaded to YouTube, and people noticed that Trump's answer on Epstein was cut in a fairly interesting way. Now, before we roll the clip, I will say it's obviously common practice to splice up long interviews. So you might see a 10-minute package on 60 Minutes, for example, and then actually it was 20 minutes, it was 2 hours of talking, that gets condensed into a 10-minute package or into a 2-minute package for that matter. So there's a lot of splicing. There's a lot of chopping that's done in the editing process whenever you have a big sit-down interview on a major news network. That's common practice. But
his interviews are boring. Just ask Lex Fridman.
Take a listen to the way in which Donald Trump answered this Epstein question. The way that it was originally cut off was just him saying, yeah, I'll release the files. Listen to what he says after that. Let's run this clip. This is E2 from Fox News.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
do you think that would restore trust?
Do you hear what he's saying? That one he hesitates on. That's what Lex is asking about, right? That's the hesitation that Lex Fridman is talking about, right? And like they ask him about 9/11, yes. Kennedy, yes. This, yes. That, yes. Right? Epstein. Well, I don't want to ruin anyone's life. There's a lot of fake stuff with that one. There's a lot of stuff that you can't trust. I don't know about that one. I'm not so sure about that one. Chat, if you don't know already, Trump is on those flight logs, right? Trump is on those Epstein flight logs. Trump has been connected to Epstein since at least the 1980s. Trump seems to have been really good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. When Ghislaine Maxwell went to jail, Trump wished her well, right? That was his comment on Ghislaine Maxwell, was not it's horrible what she did. We really, gotta, protect children better. No, it's like, I wish her well. I wish her the best, right? In other words, you're worried that she's gonna pin the tail on this elephant, on Donald Trump. She's gonna drop the dime, right? He's doing everything he can to keep Ghislaine Maxwell happy.
Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there, because that was a weird situation, and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'd go a long way toward that one. The other stuff I would.
So that originally aired on Fox and Friends, but was cut off right when Donald Trump said, yeah, I would. And then everything else he said was a major backtrack. By the way, it's incredibly significant news.
So did you see that? Fox News literally sweeping for this guy. Fox News literally cutting it where after he says yes, to make it look like in the interview that it's just like Kennedy, yes. 9/11, yes. Epstein, yes. Right? That's not what he said though. That's not they misled Americans about the answer that Donald Trump gave, right? Because that answer for Epstein was very, very different than the answers for the rest of it. And it almost belies a man that's got something to hide, a man that's got a personal connection to Epstein, which we know he does, that is afraid of the information about that personal relationship with Epstein being leaked, being out in the open.
Anytime Donald Trump talks about Jeffrey Epstein, anytime anyone in a position of power talks about Jeffrey Epstein, for what it's worth, for a news outlet, I think actually to get Donald Trump talking like that about Jeffrey Epstein is a pretty big story. So again, they cut that off. We can put E1 up on the screen. Sorry for going out of order here, but they did cut that off. And some people in media noticed it I want to highlight another part of what he said. I guess I would. I think that less so because you don't know, you don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because it's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would. I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
So he's saying that what, the government stuff on Epstein? The legal files on Epstein? That's phony stuff? I'm sorry, but this is a pattern of deception. This is a pattern, I would say, of criminality when it comes to Trump. And if you connect those dots, if you fill in those blanks, I don't know what is there, but it is ugly. It is ugly, chat.
Certainly about the way he died. It'd be interesting to find out. But yeah, I'd go a long way toward that one. So sort of a typical Trump answer. You don't totally know what it means. It's almost effectively...
Because he rambles.
Hard to make.
Or I'm sorry, Chad, it's not rambling, it's a weave. He's doing the weave. Don't call it rambling.
Make out. But the editing, I think, where you're just going rapid fire through JFK, yeah, I already did a lot of it. And you get to Epstein, yeah, I would. And immediately, well,
so he released JFK stuff, and apparently there wasn't much there because it doesn't sound like it's changed people's, like, right? It's not like this big revelation came out of that.
You know, there's a lot of phony stuff, you know, less so with Epstein than others. Ryan, obviously Epstein was sort of in that Palm Beach world. Obviously there's that famous footage of him with Donald Trump kind of partying at Mar-a-Lago. Some people have claimed that there was recruitment happening at Mar-a-Lago of girls who were...
I mean, I don't know if that's some people have claimed, right? How long ago is this from? 2 months ago? Yeah, I feel like we know that at least one underage girl seems to have been recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago, allegedly.
Sex trafficked, essentially. So I think it's fairly significant. I think it was a great question from Rachel Campo-Steffi. What happened here? Is this, you know, in a way, is this a defense of Fox saying we ended up putting up the whole thing, there was nothing to hide? Or is it them sort of being caught editing it by later up?
I mean, you tell me, chat, if you got that interview and it was like, Kennedy, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. I've already done a lot of it, right? 9/11, yeah, let's do that. Epstein, yeah, let's do that. And that's what they released. And then upon further, you know, review, they released the entire thing, and it's Donald Trump like very much vacillating on that. Well, I don't know, actually, there's a lot of fake stuff in that one. We don't want to ruin anybody's life. Whose life do you think he's concerned about ruining? Is Donald Trump an empathetic human being that's concerned about the lives of other people? Or is Donald Trump kind of concerned mainly about one person and one person only? Yeah, he's concerned about himself.
Uploading the whole thing, maybe not realizing that people would notice the discrepancy.
I mean, I think they got caught. But I think, you know, different people made different decisions. I don't think it was, you know, from the top, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to edit this to make it palatable for our seniors who watch on Fox, and then we're going to let the whole part go out on Will Kane's podcast. I don't think they exactly did it that way, but a system is what it does. And, you know, the interest of the producers that...
Well, like, here's what it is, chat. They cut the interesting part, right? That's a decision that actually does not serve it doesn't serve Fox News, right? You want to make your coverage the most interesting it can be. The interesting part of that answer was what he said after. And that's the part they cut.
Well, they never went to his island.
Okay, let's slow this down.
Fortunately. But a lot of people did.
Why do you think so many smart, powerful people allowed him to get so close?
He was a good salesman. He was, you know, was a hale and hearty type of guy. He had some nice assets that he'd throw around, like islands. But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be.
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's
I'd certainly take a look at it. Dude is talking out of his ass here.
years ago. They do that for danger too, because, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy.
Well, yeah, no, they will protect government assets. They'll protect intelligence agents, right? But we're talking about the Kennedy assassination. Certainly no intelligence agents were involved in that, right?
Is very different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
That's great to hear. What gives you strength when
Well, there's his answer.
you're getting attacked? You're one of the most attacked people in the world.
I think you can't care that much. I know people that care so much about everything, like what people are saying. You can't care too much because you end up choking.
One of the tragic things about life is that it ends. How often do you think about your death? Are you afraid of it?
I have a friend who's very, very successful, and he's in his 80s, mid 80s, and he asked me that exact same question. I turned it around. I said, well, what about you? He said, I think about it every minute of every day. And then a week later, he called me to tell me something, and he starts off the conversation by going, tick tock, tick tock.
Yeah.
Now, this is a dark person, in a sense, but it is what it is. I mean, if you're religious, you have, I think, a better feeling toward it. You're supposed to go to heaven, ideally not hell, but you're supposed to go to heaven if you're good. I think our country's missing a lot of religion. I think it really was a much better place with religion. It was almost a guide, to a certain extent it was a guide. You want to be good to people. Without religion, there are no guardrails. I'd love to see us get back to religion, more religion in this country.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for putting yourself out there, and thank you for talking today.
Look, I love the country. I want to see the country be great, and we have a real chance of doing it, but it's our last chance, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this conversation with Donald Trump. To support this podcast, please.
Okay, so what's he got after here? It says it in AMA.
He was there and lived through it and covered. See Bernie, Barack Obama, Bill and Hillary, and on the right, J.D. Vance, Vivek, George W., and so on. And on the topic of politics, let me say as an immigrant, I love this country, the United States of America. I do believe it is the greatest nation on earth. And I'm grateful for the people on the...
Oh my God, bro likes to yap. I bet that this last part had 80% less watch time than the rest of the speech. I bet it just crashed after that. Oh my God. So yeah, there's something really screwy about the search function when it comes to Hannity and Trump. So far I've found the David Pakman segment. I'm trying to find the document itself here. This will tide us over. Oh yeah, chat. I should also mention we got off to a quick start on the dono goal, but we just completely stalled here. It's at 11% out of 100. Have I missed anything? Maybe. Let's take a look. No, actually, I have not. So not looking good for the bonus content. Might be kind of a quick end to this stream if it continues to go that way. Let's see, what is chat voting for? They're voting for Brianna Wu turns on Chud Logics. People still want to see that one. We've also got chat we got Demon Mama responds to Tyler in second place. We got chat chooses violence in third place, and Lo-Fi Girl to Q Shaman in fourth place. It's fairly close. Let's see what's got the boost. Demon Mama's got a 5% boost. Brianna Wu. So it looks like Brianna Wu's winning, but I don't know if we're gonna get that. Remember, when you donate, you can let me know in the comments which of these topics you want to see next, right? Do you want to see the Brianna Wu being angry at Chud Logic? Do you want to choose violence and see more sun tent? If you know, right? But there's always more sun tent. Sunday is the cow that keeps giving milk, right? We got Lo-Fi Girl to Q Shaman. That's about the YouTube algorithm and what happens when you just like let stuff autoplay. Like how quickly does YouTube bring you to like right-wing content? And then we got Demon Mama actually speaking about a little bit, saying a few things about the allegations from Tyler. You remember the hit piece, right? The accusations involving one of Demon Mama's partners and a former employee of Demon Mama's. That's what that is. So yeah, just remember when you donate, let me know in the chat which of these topics you want to see next, and I will put your money where your mouth is, and we will. Omega Star picks Demon Mama, so we're up to 14%. That's pretty good. 14% on that, and I'm adding 3 to Demon Mama. So yeah, Demon Mama's getting a boost, making it a little bit closer. I'd say that Brianna Wu's still ahead. People still seem to want to see the Brianna Wu versus Chud Logic dust up, but we got a lot of people interested in the Demon Mama Tyler thing as well. So keep on voting. If you're in the short stream or if you're in Twitch, feel free to come over to the main stream on YouTube. I will put that link in the chat for you now. Here we go, link in the chat, and pin it for you in case you want to go. Oh god, it should have said, okay, let's see, a full screen. There we go. Pin that one instead. There we go, pin that one, and then put it in Twitch, full screen. Oh my god. See, I hate doing this on Twitch because it makes it like I don't want Twitch to think I'm trying to... Twitch hates it if I try to send people from Twitch to YouTube, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying, oh, okay, let's try this again. Vote. Wait. Let's just put that vote. For bonus content. And then pin that. All right, so yeah, let's get to this Hannity stuff now. Remember, yeah, any kind of donation, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Twitch, or whether it is a donation to my throne, or you're signing up for Patreon, right? All of those count. And they allow you to not only drive the dono goal up, right? So you'll make the dono goal go higher. It's now at 14%, right? If it gets to 100% by the end of the stream, we get bonus content. But you also get to do what Omega just did and add percentages. By the amount you donate, you add a percentage to the topic of your choice. So if you want to see Demon Mama and what her response is as far as the Tyler situation, you will make that more likely by donating and then saying Demon Mama. Or if you want to see the Lo-Fi Girl thing, donating and then say Lo-Fi Girl. Or if you want to see you choose violence, donate and say choose violence. Or if you want to see Brianna Wu get angry at Chud Logic, donate and say Brianna Wu or Chud Logic or whatever. Right? That's how the game works. And sometimes we win, and sometimes we lose. As RFK Jr. once said, sometimes you skin the bear, and sometimes the bear gives you a brainworm. Okay, so
when this election is...
So this is that Hannity... now, it seems like, for whatever reason, this stuff is hard to find on YouTube right now. This is David Pakman's video talking about this, but I'm a little bit surprised.
Over, based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them.
Yesterday, Donald Trump appeared in an interview with Fox News propagandist Sean Hannity. This is supposed to be a softball interview. It's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to make Trump look good. Trump and Hannity are friends to the extent Trump can have friends, or as Nikki Haley likes to say, Trump is my friend. And as friendly as it was, Trump seemed confused. He would answer questions that were not asked. And at one point, Trump said that the only global warming that matters to him is nuclear global warming. What?
The other night about that nuclear doesn't matter so much. What matters is, think of this, global warming. The only global warming that matters to me is nuclear global warming, because that's the real deal.
He's completely confused. He's looking around disoriented, deer in the headlights, looking at the middle distance, begging Hannity to save him. He doesn't know what he is saying. Trump brought up, or Hannity brought up, the issue of people saying Trump is going to get revenge. He's going for retribution if he becomes president. And Trump doesn't deny it. He says, I have every right to go after them. If you have any doubt as to what this guy plans to do, this 23-second clip should eliminate any trace of that doubt.
Those that want people to believe that you want retribution, that you will use the system of justice to go after your political enemies.
So, number one, they're wrong. It has to stop, because otherwise we're not going to have a country. Look, when this election is over, based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them.
So that's how it starts. We have to stop it, but I have every right. And in other venues, I'm saying I'm going to do it. Here, I'm taking a cue from Hannity that I should deny I'm going to do it. But by the way, I would have every right to do it. Trump very lost and very confused at another point during the interview, to the point where Hannity has to say, let's actually maintain focus on one topic for a second here.
Let me go back to the foreign policy.
I say a lot of things about it, but it's whatever I say about it, it's real bad.
About that. But let me stay focused for just a second, if I may.
Hannity's struggling. Hannity's struggling to even keep Trump on one topic. And then this is where it really got weird. And women and anyone who knows a woman should pay very close attention to this part. Trump says, in a way, it's a beautiful thing to see states pass abortion bans that can even force teenage rape survivors to give birth. Trump says the entire way it's all working out is a beautiful thing.
And in many ways, it's a beautiful thing to watch. So they wanted to, for 52 years, move it back to the states. That's why they wanted to fight Roe v. Wade. Then about 10 or 12 years ago, it started getting more complex. They were talking about...
This should be shocking and appalling to people, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, not as independents, not as foreign observers of what's happening in the United States. At a basic human level, this should disgust all of us. It certainly disgusts me. At another point during the interview, Trump praising the usual suspects, Putin, Kim Jong-un, Xi, saying these are individuals at the top of their game.
President Xi of China, Putin, Kim Jong-un, all of these leaders are at the top of their game. Mentally, they're at the top of their game.
So it doesn't matter whether it's to attack Joe Biden or to cheer on their strength. It is always the usual suspects, the dictators, the authoritarians, the autocrats, and this is who Trump aspires to be. Trump getting confused about climate and weather at another point during the interview. And again, he gets that sort of lost look on his face.
He said it's an existential threat. He loves the words existential threat. That global warming is an existential threat. And he doesn't know why. What is it? It's weather. And I'm all for that. You know what? I'm in a certain way, in a very powerful way, I'm an environmentalist.
Yeah, in a very powerful way, Trump's an environmentalist. And then lastly and hilariously, Hannity says to Trump, you know, you didn't have to do this. You could just be playing golf every day, which is so funny because Trump is playing golf mostly every day.
You don't have to be doing this. You could be playing golf every day and you probably wouldn't be charged with anything.
Well, I think I say it about almost all of these cases that are brought against.
Oh my God. Oh my God, chat. The fucking Trump tent. I swear to God. I swear to God. That is an interview from 2 months ago. Give yourself a pat on back in chat if you caught that. Take a look at this. This is what I was trying to find. God damn it.
to tear everything down around him. Donald Trump's solution is to undermine trust in our institutions. So he glitched a lot early on in this clip. Watch.
Tell a couple of people, but who's the person?
Okay, so wait, is this a Levine interview? Where am I getting the Hannity stuff from? I feel like... Yeah, it was Mark Levine.
That wants to say...
God damn.
Says no, we're giving it to all of our...
What's happening here?
All over the world. Whoever heard you get indicted for interfering with a presidential election where you have every right to do it, you get indicted and your poll numbers go up. When people get indicted, your poll numbers go down.
That was a confession, if I ever heard one. Donald Trump said that he had every right to interfere with the 2020 election, and oh boy, did he try. After all of his court cases, he pursued extra legal means, like pressuring Mike Pence into choosing fake slate electors, like pressuring election officials across the country into finding votes. Donald Trump did an interview with Mark Levin, and the entire interview aired tonight on Fox News, and even though Mark Levin threw softball questions at Donald Trump, he went on unhinged, insane rants, said too much, and said a few wild things about Mike Pence that I think you guys will enjoy. I don't want to waste any of your time. Let's jump into the chaos. All that I ask is that you leave a like on this video below, and you make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler channel. So, this next clip has the internet in a frenzy. It already has almost 400,000 views, and it only happened about 15 minutes ago. Donald Trump said that the way Kamala Harris treated Mike Pence was horrible. Just take a look.
But I agreed to all these things that I normally wouldn't agree to. Now they have Kamala, who they say has many deficiencies, but she's a nasty person. The way she treated Mike Pence was horrible. The way she treated...
Okay, so this is what's funny about this, right? The way she treated Mike Pence was horrible. The way she treated Mike Pence. This is Trump's former vice president for 4 years. And there's a reason why Mike Pence is not the current vice president. There's a reason that Mike Pence actually challenged Donald Trump for the nomination. And that is because Donald Trump gave Mike Pence essentially an illegal order, told Mike Pence to, violate the law. And Mike Pence said no. And the results were that the Jan 6ers marched through the halls of the Capitol shouting, "Hang Mike Pence." This guy almost got his vice president killed. And he's going to say that Kamala was mean to Mike Pence in the vice presidential debate in 2020.
These people is horrible, but the way she treated Justice Kavanaugh during that hearing, in the history of Congress, nobody's been treated that way.
Donald Trump's supporters were outside.
Well, I will say that there is a tendency in especially confirmations. There's a word that you hear get thrown around, and it's called comedy. Not comedy like a ha-ha comedy, but comity. C-O-M-M-I-T-Y. And what it means is like the collegial relationship that senators enjoy. Whether they're on the right or the left, they tend to be a little bit more diplomatic with each other, a little bit more kind to each other. And, there's a lot of, that's considered rude. One of the things that's considered rude or bad form is if you press a judicial nominee too hard. And I think that's a mistake. Given the results of Trump's judicial nominees, I feel like the mistake that was made was not Kamala Harris being too hard on Kavanaugh. It is the majority of the senators not being hard enough on all those shitty candidates, on all of those candidates that have shown nothing but conflict of interest, nothing but corruption, and now seem to be the most illegitimate Supreme Court possibly in the history of the country, right? Nobody's got faith in this Supreme Court. They are just violating precedent willy-nilly, and they're conflicted, right? They're receiving, gifts from people like Harlan Crow. Like there's, they should have gone harder on them, right? Instead of just like, now, Mr. Kavanaugh, you certainly aren't going to overturn Roe versus Wade, are you? Oh no, I would never do that, right? Okay, well that's very nice. They just like bullshit them, and nobody fucking presses them. And Kamala pressed Kavanaugh a little bit. Kamala made Kavanaugh, work for that nomination. I would be surprised if she even voted against his nomination, because the whole thing about judicial nominees is that generally, unless the person is found to be an actual fucking vampire, like the exception that I can think of, you got to go back to, like, let's see, the Bush administration, Harriet Miers, when Bush tried to put, like, you know, his personal confidant who didn't have the resume really to be on the Supreme Court. He tried to nominate her for Supreme Court, right? That one went downhill pretty fast. But beyond that, you got to look back to Robert Bork, right? Now, some of you might be thinking Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas had, like, very plausible allegations against him as far as sexual harassment, right? But in the end of the day, Clarence Thomas was approved. Clarence Thomas went on to that court, and I think the United States has been worse for it. But yeah, you almost got to go back to a Reagan nominee called Robert Bork, who actually lived in a neighborhood that did not allow black people there, right? You got to have something pretty bad in your history. You got to have some major skeletons in your closet for the nomination to go off the rails, right? They tend to just kind of, I mean, they'll talk to them, they'll ask them this and that, they'll try to be like, you're not going to violate precedent, aren't you? They're, oh no, me, precedent, never. I would never violate precedent, right? But in the end, they generally let the president. And there's another exception. Let me name another exception. Merrick Garland. Obama nominated Merrick Garland after Scalia unexpectedly died, right? This is Merrick Garland, somebody who is centrist to the point of maybe being a little bit on the right. And that was Obama's kind of olive branch to the Republicans in the Senate. He was thinking, well, you know, you lost Scalia. You didn't expect Scalia to die that soon. That kind of sucks for you. Let me help you out. Let me nominate somebody, like, you know, completely down the middle for you instead of, because, you know, you can nominate who you want. And the Republicans paid him back for that by not hearing the nomination. So, but yeah, this is there's too much comedy. There's too much going along to get along. There's too much congeniality. And you know, you would hope that people would stand up, and when, you know, somebody tries to put on a justice who's gonna you know, fuck America up like these three justices that Trump named do, you would hope that in the future there's going to be at least a little bit of pushback, if not a straight up filibuster.
The Capitol on January 6th chanting "Hang Mike Pence," and Trump never even called to see if Pence was okay, according to Mike Pence's own book. Spiro's Ghost on Twitter said, "This was said out loud just now on planet Earth. Up is down, war is peace. What is the most insane about this is I believe he's so delusionally insane that he somehow thinks this is real and that he did not mistreat Mike Pence." Genuinely asking, how the hell did Kamala...
He probably thinks Mike Pence mistreated him by not helping him to steal the election.
Kamala Harris mistreat Mike Pence? Was it during the debate where a fly landed on Mike Pence's head? Because Donald Trump was...
What he means is that, and we'll see if this is Adam Mockler. If Adam Mockler doesn't show this, then I'll grab the footage for you. But during that debate against Mike Pence, he interrupted her several times, and when he did, he said, or she said, "Mr. Pence, I am speaking now," right? Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking now, right? So she asserted herself. That's how she mistreated Mike Pence, by not letting herself get rolled over, by not letting herself get steamrollered.
The one who, number one, mistreats everybody during debates and just bullies his way through. But number two, Mike Pence said that Donald Trump never called him, so Trump bullied him. Alex Cole said, "You sent your supporters to try and kill Mike Pence, which is why he is not your running mate. That's why I confronted Mike Lindell with one simple question: why did Donald Trump need a new vice president? Because any answer that they could possibly give is cope and skirts around the real answer, which is Donald Trump wanted to threaten or hurt Mike Pence for not subverting the will of the American people." This is Donald Trump rambling about trucks. This dude's vocabulary consists of maybe 100 words if I'm being charitable.
Figure this out. The American people, I think a lot of them want to know, how do you come by your decisions and how do you manage in the Oval Office?
Well, I think that I learned, like I talked about the truckers, I learned about trucks, and by talking to them, in 5 minutes, I knew as much as I'm going to have to know to make decisions that are going to be earth-shattering for transportation, for moving cargo and moving a lot of other things. I learned from having interaction. Some politicians.
So you're seeing sort of a display of Donald Trump's narcissism. And in this case, it is him underestimating the complexity of issues with which he's not familiar. And assuming that a cursory conversation about a subject is equivalent to somebody researching and knowing what they're talking about and being enmeshed in the issue and really having like a meaningful understanding of that, right? He's like, oh, I didn't know that at all. And then I talked to some truckers and I immediately just got it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Don't have interaction. Some politicians aren't smart. They can't have interaction.
The one word that popped into my...
He's saying, I'm a quick learner. I'm a quick learner. I didn't know shit about this, but then I talked to a trucker and now I know everything about it. It's bullshit.
Mind was hubris. Donald Trump is so self-centered that he thinks one brief...
Yeah, hubris is another way to look at it. I mean, it's the same, kind of a synonym.
Makes him an expert, which is not only unrealistic and egotistical, but it's dismissive of the actual experts. See the COVID crisis, the COVID pandemic, when...
Oh my God, yeah, great example.
Trump showed a total lack of leadership and
Where has Pence been? He pops up from time to time. It seems like he's not super thrilled with Trump, but I doubt he'll like endorse Kamala or anything.
Everything that Dr. Fauci said, and himself.
Pence is hiding for his life? Yeah, maybe.
Like, why don't we just inject bleach? Donald Trump also says that our country is sick. And you know, it's weird. For the party of the Constitution, the party of patriotism, Donald Trump sure does talk about our failing nation and how we have a sick nation a lot. He doesn't sound quite proud of what we've built.
But, no, I think you think, like, if you believed in God, you believe in God more. And somebody said, like, why? And I'd like to think that God thinks that I'm going to straighten out our country. Our country is so sick and it's so broken. Our country is just broken. And maybe that was the reason. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you
a lot of people have...
And the thing is, our country does have problems, identifiable problems. There are predatory loans when it comes to student debt. Our healthcare system is suboptimal. We have a gun violence problem, but all of these problems can be fixed if we move forward and unite. Donald Trump's solution is to tear...
All of these problems and more can be fixed. And it can be done as easy as a Twitch Prime sub to get yourself out of the ad break that happens at the top of the hour, every hour for 3 minutes at a time. If you're on Twitch, you may not know this, but there's an ad break that reoccurs, and it's going to happen again in about 20 minutes. You can get out of it for free using a Twitch Prime sub. You can get out of it for $6 using $6. You could also possibly be, gifted a sub. That can happen. That does happen, but it's more likely to happen for you if you're active in the chat. And the bonus goal is more active to happen for us if we keep on hitting those numbers. Speaking of which, Narwhal by Nature, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Looks like apotheosis. You've just been weaseled, and that's a good thing. Mara Katsune, you've just been weaseled, and that's a good thing. Emily Wood, you've just been weaseled, and that's a good thing. Asthenine, you've just been weaseled, and that's a good thing. And Paula Maddox, you've just been weaseled, and that's a good thing. Yeah, thank you, Narwhal by Nature, for the gift subs, and I'm sure all those people who just got gift subs and they now get access to exclusive content, I'm sure they thank you as well. Have you ever seen Trump in a church for worship? I mean, I feel like only if it was a church that worshipped him, then he'd be there. So that puts us at, what are we at? Oh yeah, look at that, 29%. So we're like a third of the way there. Slowly but surely, chat. We're making our way. Also, if you donate, make sure to let me know which of these topics you want to see next. Oh, Soul Life's looking for a... Wait, no, you've got one. Okay, but you're obviously talking about something else. But yeah, when you donate, you can let me know which of the topics we got Brianna Wu turns on Chud Logic. We've got Chat chooses violence. That's all about sun tent. You want to see more Sunday carnage, then you choose violence. You can also choose Lo-Fi Girl to Q Shaman if you want to know more about the YouTube algorithm and how it is directing people towards right-wing, alt-right shit today. Or you could choose Demon Mama responds to Tyler in as much as she did, right? We do have some stuff from Demon Mama, but it's not, well, you'll see if we end up picking that. Just let me know which of these topics appeal to you, and I will be more than happy to put your money where your mouth is and help you get what you want as far as the bonus content that goes on if we hit that dono goal. That goes for YouTube, that goes for Twitch, that goes for gift memberships, that goes for getting yourself a membership, that goes for Patreon signups, that goes for throne donations, right? If you help me out by donating on my throne, that works too, right? Any sort of thing that's a donation, you get to drive up that dono goal closer to 100%, and you also get to let me know what you want to see next as far as that bonus content, and I will put your money where your mouth is.
Everything down around him. Donald Trump's solution is to undermine trust in our institutions so he can enact his authoritarian Project 2025.
Woo it is. Wooten it is.
Away from people across the country. My broader point is Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans around him aren't offering any substantial solutions to these problems. They only exist.
Woo's doing really well tonight, surprisingly.
Fear and distrust. Here's another clip of Donald Trump ragging on Obama. I'll debunk it after I play it. Just take a look.
I had to make a decision. Do I want to do this? Do I want to put the wife of the President of the United States and Secretary of State, by the way, do I want to put her in prison? And I'm trying to unify a country that really was broken badly. If you look at, what was going on with Obama when I took this over, this country was had tremendous hatred, anxiety, a lot of hatred.
It did not have tremendous hatred and anxiety, or hatred, as he says again. It did have a strong economy and a pandemic task force that Donald Trump disbanded right before we had a massive pandemic. Also, any of the distrust or any of the hatred or fear was actually created by Donald Trump. I mean, his entry into politics back in 2011, 2012 was saying that Barack Obama, President Obama, wasn't born in the U.S., and that conspiracy theory started. It sparked a lot of hatred throughout the country, but Trump likes to continue perpetuating this narrative that Obama spurred hatred just simply because President Obama is black. It just doesn't make sense. So Obama left Trump with a great economy after a historic recovery, and Trump should be more grateful. Let's listen to the Lara clip.
And do I want to put the wife of a president of the United States in prison? I didn't want to do that. And then when I get out, it's like, it's amazing, actually. It's amazing. And it's such a bad precedent because people are going to think about it differently.
The thing is, Hillary Clinton sat through Benghazi hearings for 8 to 12 hours. It was an outrageous amount of time. Donald Trump played cat and mouse with the FBI for over a year and never gave back the documents that they were requesting. So that is the fundamental difference between somebody like Hillary Clinton and somebody like Donald Trump. Here's a clip of Donald Trump talking about when they came in, they had no ammunition. I said, who is it? I just listen.
They also announced they're very low on ammunition. When I came in, they announced we had no ammunition. And I said, number one, who's the stupid person saying that? You could tell a couple of people, but who's the person that wants to say the United States has no ammunition? We're giving it to all of our people all over the world, in particular Ukraine. We're giving.
But not to Israel. He's not concerned about that, right? Yeah, the United States is arming Israel with more than just ammo, with like 2,000-pound bombs that are being used for ethnic cleansing. But no, he's like more worried about, oh my God, is Ukraine getting ammo? Right?
They're massive, billions of dollars of stuff. And I rebuilt our military all in 4 years. I have great people. I had great people doing this. And I restocked our ammunition. We had so much ammunition, it was coming out the gills, as they say. We had missiles, now we don't have ammunition. How would you like to be President Xi sitting there?
It's amazing. It's amazing. The United States military does not have ammunition, and yet no media has talked about it. It's never come up, right?
Did you notice the contradictory claims that Donald Trump made? He said that when he came in, they told him there was no ammunition, and he said, that's stupid, we definitely have ammunition. Then he continues to say that he restocked our ammunition throughout the country. Donald Trump only speaks the language of projection, and that becomes increasingly clear every single time he does an interview. Also, he glitched a lot early on in this clip. Watch.
Tell a couple of people, but who's the person that wants to say the United States has no, we're giving it to all of our...
What's happening here?
Oh, you don't understand, Adam. Look, I'm sorry, Adam. You're just not smart enough to understand the sophisticated man and his weave. He's doing the weave, right? He's not glitching. He's not rambling. He's weaving, okay? You're just not smart enough. You're just not as smart as Trump, Adam. I'm sorry. Let's take a look at another unhinged interview. I think this is the Dr. Phil one. Now, this one is the reason I'm watching this on Midas Touch, right? The reason I haven't shown you the Dr. Phil interview in full is that Dr. Phil is like notorious for copyright claiming. And I am kind of, what is the opposite of notorious? Where you're like the victim of notoriety, you're the victim of the notorious one, right? I'm notorious for getting my stream taken down for covering stuff that I should be able to cover. That's completely fair use, but I still get hit with a takedown notice. So we're going to try to watch this through Midas Touch since they're big enough to not get taken down.
If Jesus came down...
Oh, there we go. There we go. This is what it is.
And was the vote counter, I would win California.
If Jesus counted the votes... Well, yeah, because Jesus famously, Chad, I don't know if there's a little story about Jesus, right? I grew up in a religious family, or at least my mom was really religious. So, I would read the Bible sometimes at night because I'd get scared by scary movies. And like, I thought that if I read the Bible that like, I don't know, that like God would save me from Saw or whatever scary movie I was watching. Right. I thought the Bible, reading the Bible, right.
So peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Nobody's ever been brutally unalived while reading the Bible. So, I would like.
It was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
But yeah, I remember. I gotta say, as far as the Bible goes, the Old Testament was fire, sometimes literally, sometimes fire and brimstone, right? The Old Testament was fire. The New Testament was boring. The New Testament dragged on, right? And then the Book of Revelations, also fire. Highly recommended. Like, that's a very interesting read. You got a Whore of Babylon. You've got a beast. You got snakes. You got dragons. It's pretty fucking cool. Shit gets pretty cool in the Book of Revelations, right? But I do remember the story about Jesus and some fish, right? They had like 2 fish and like, what was it? 3 loaves of bread or something like that? Maybe I got it backwards. Maybe it's like 3 fish and 2 loaves of bread. Regardless, they got a whole bunch of people to feed and only a little bit of food to feed them with. And Jesus had this like magical bag, right? That he pulls out the fish and he pulls out another fish. And he pulls out another fish, and it's just a magical bag. It was like a pocket dimension bag, right? That like just led to unlimited fish and unlimited bread. And so somehow Jesus was able to turn like a limited number of fish and bread into an unlimited feast for anybody that was hungry. Just come and eat. There's plenty of fish sandwiches for everyone. Yeah, that's what Jesus was doing, right? He was fish sandwiches for everyone. So I feel like if Jesus counted Trump's vote, he might have won, because Jesus would be able to reach into that magical bag and pull out another vote, and here's another vote, and there's another vote, and there's another. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jesus would have to use his magic, because Donald Trump did not, cannot, and never will win California. That's not going to happen. You could literally clone Anna Kasparian like thousands of times, right? Okay, I don't think, even Anna's not gonna. She's pretty right wing these days. I don't think she's a Trump voter, right? But you'd have to have like the Kasparian effect, like just go like on steroids to get Republicans anywhere close to winning California. So that's not gonna happen. They've got plenty of right wing Democrats as it is, unfortunately, in California. But yeah, there he is. If Jesus were to count the votes, let's hear this again.
If Jesus came down and was the vote counter, I would win California, okay?
He would win California.
In other words, if we
In other words, if you had unlimited votes that you could just pull out of a magical bag, yeah, then you would win.
Had an honest vote counter.
What does that mean?
Well, I think that he feels like California, there are a lot of Republicans and there are a lot of votes here. I think
there's a lot of people in California. Fuck yeah, there's a lot of Republicans. Orange County, but also LA and also San Francisco and also San Diego and many other places in between. Yeah.
He was probably, a little bit of a stretch.
Trump lost here by close to 5 million votes.
Part of it too, right? If you look at the country, if you divide the country into red and blue, right, by states, you see a lot of red. You see that most of the square miles of the United States are painted red. And if you look even closer and you do like a county map, you'll see even big sections of states like New York, California, states that you think of as being very left-wing. They've also got maybe even more like red than they do blue, but those red areas are places where not many people live, and the blue areas are the places where a lot of people live. So all in all, California, New York, New Jersey, whatever, state that Trump wants to wish cast that he has a chance of winning, and there's vastly more votes for Democrats there than there are for Republicans, even with Jesus and his magical bag of tricks, right?
Do you have evidence that he actually won this state, that there were 5 million more people that voted for him that weren't counted?
No.
Oh, that's gotta hurt!
That's gotta hurt. Okay, anyway, this is just going to be more Midas touch shit, so we can skip the rest of this. I got more to get to. Where else do I have some polls for you?
Donald Trump just got a Labor Day shock that he was not expecting in Buena Vista, Virginia. As Aaron Frischner puts it, the kind of place that hasn't always had a strong Democratic presence in the election seats. That's an understatement. But at today's Labor Day parade, it was very different. Take a look right here as Glenn Youngkin, who was stumping for Donald Trump, gets booed and drowned out with chants of "We're not going back." Here, watch this.
Comment is, I think all of you should move over here, and all of you should move over there, because you all are sitting on the wrong sides. This is right, and that is left.
Okay, so this is Virginia. That's Glenn Youngkin. That's the governor of Virginia. This is who Donald Trump probably should have chosen for his vice presidential candidate if he wanted to win. But yeah, Glenn Youngkin, fairly popular governor in Virginia, not able to get the excitement for Trump.
Again, just take a look at that crowd there, filled in Buena Vista, Virginia, of all places, with Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz's apparel. Something is brewing, and it is hope and joy. Here, watch this.
For years, insurance companies have discriminated against you because...
Look, it's hope and joy, and unfortunately a lot of complacency with the ethnic cleansing that's going on right now in Gaza. Yeah. We do have maybe a little tiny silver lining, a little shine, a little tiny peep of sunshine to show you as far as what might be coming down the line. But again, the interviews, the speeches, everything coming out of the Harris campaign is sort of indicating more of the same from Biden. And in other words, more empty promises, more we're going to get that ceasefire. No, seriously, we're going to get it. Crown of Thorns is plus 50 charisma, negative 100 vitality, pretty much.
Now let's take a look at what Donald Trump's been posting and doing on Labor Day. He sent the following email to those on his listserv. It says, official presidential pin. And then when you open it up, here's what pops up. Official presidential pin featuring America's favorite president, Donald J. Trump. It is the American flag.
I mean, I'm definitely America's favorite moderator, but I don't know about Donald Trump being the America's favorite president.
with Donald Trump's name.
I got nothing but satisfied customers as far as my moderation goes. That's what Sunday and Tyler told me, is that I was a great moderator.
Desecrating it. That's not how the American flag should ever be positioned at all.
Okay, so it's more Midas touch stuff. Like, I'm not that surprised. We were just here for the booze. Let's see. Do you got anything more for us, Mycellus? What else you got for us? A new music video from Lara Trump? What is this?
What the Republican Party has become. Let's take a look at what former President Barack Obama is doing, not making music. See, what is Lara Trump doing on Labor Day? Oh, she just released her new music video for her song. This has been a major priority of the RNC. This is what the
Boring
generations of American workers and their gratitude said.
Down to one question. Balls. That's a fact.
Sean Fain at the Democratic National Convention there.
Vance was booed. Remember when J.D. Vance said that he's so pro-worker and he and Donald Trump are, and he got booed by the firefighter union's workers? Here, play this.
Yeah, let's get more of the booing.
President Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican ticket in history, and I want to talk about why we're fighting for working people, why we're going to fight for unions and non-union alike. Now, our enemies and a lot of Democrats call us populists, like it's something of an insult.
Yeah, that happened earlier this week. So let's take a look at what Donald Trump and his surrogates have been doing as well. I just noticed this one pop up on my feed. If you go on X right now, it's basically become an entire right-wing cesspool of disinformation at this point. And if you want to test my characterization of it, here's the leader of that platform, Elon Musk, right here. And so in response to a post yesterday where Vice President Kamala Harris says, Donald Trump vows to be a dictator on day one, we won't let him, Elon Musk posts an AI image of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Boring. Really? Really? Okay, Midas touch.
I said, no, other than day one.
And again, someone who says they want
the dictator on day one thing.
To be one dictator.
Okay, anyway, let's see. Okay, so now we were talking earlier, there was somebody in chat that was telling me, like, what do you mean? Donald Trump is winning in the polls. Donald Trump is winning in the polls. What do you want to bet, chat, that person has not consulted a poll in like 2 months? Because that's how long you'd have to have your head up your ass to not notice the massive sea change in terms of voting. Now, what I said to that person when they said Donald Trump is winning in the polls, I said, what polls are you looking at? And are they Rasmussen reports? Because Rasmussen reports, it's like a reliable pro-Republican poll. They're always way off early on in the election season in terms of their projections. And then at the last minute, they kind of like correct it closer to whatever is the real poll, so that they don't have ever a situation where it's like you, right before the election, you predicted Trump would win by 16 and he lost by, 3. He lost by 5 or whatever, right? They don't want to see that, like, they don't want to have like temporal moments. So they do correct at the last minute, but they are basically there. It's like, it's propaganda. And what it does is it skews the polls. There was a caller on a Majority Report this morning, actually. Was it Tuna John? It was somebody named John that I don't know, I'm not sure if it was Tuna John, but it was somebody named John who was keeping track of the polls and had their own aggregate that they had put together. And Sam asked this person, like, are there any polls that you eliminate from contention because you think that they're not accurate, right? And what Sam was fishing for there was things like Rasmussen or Trafalgar, right? Reliably Republican skewing polls. And this caller said something to the effect that the Republicans are basically flooding the zone. That so there's a lot of pro-Republican polls out there that are trying to kind of, like if the more polls that come out and that get counted in these aggregates, the more likely the aggregate's gonna, favor Trump in some way. But it looks like even Rasmussen. So I'd said to this chatter earlier who just was in disbelief. What do you mean? Trump is winning? Duh, Trump is winning. I was like, are you looking at Rasmussen? Right? Because Rasmussen tends to track to the right. But chat, if you look at these numbers right here on the thumbnail, you'll see that, yeah, July 23rd, Harris at 37, Trump at 53. August 8th, Harris at 43, Trump at 47. Go forward to late August, Harris at 47, Trump at 48, right? And you can only imagine what's below here, right? Now, this is Rasmussen. Remember, this one is skewed. And look at that. Look at how wide the swings are, right? You got Trump leading by 4. You got Trump leading by 3, 4, 4, 2, 2, 2. Okay, that's normal. 10. That's a huge swing. And then then down to 0, 0, 0, 0. Now leading by 1. This is not looking good. This is not looking good, right? When Rasmussen calls you even with Kamala Harris, you are losing. You are losing. So we're going to take a look at
Donald Trump just got some very bad news this morning. He learned that a Rasmussen poll has him now down to Vice President Kamala Harris by 1. That's right, the far right-wing pollster, which basically exists to give Donald Trump good polls at this point, now has Donald Trump trailing by 1 to Vice President Kamala Harris. Donald Trump would always cite Rasmussen as he's down in all of the other polls. Also, Mark Mitchell, who worked for Rasmussen, was trolling Vice President Kamala Harris just a few days back, saying, "Oh no."
Yeah, they do this. In fact, they have a YouTube channel that I look like. Their videos are like dunk on the libs. Like their videos are really for a pollster, right? Their videos are pretty politically charged.
This wasn't supposed to happen. Our latest nightly data point shows Trump opening his biggest lead in 10 days. Well, now,
oh, that's the 10-point poll, isn't it? Look at that blip. Look at that blip on the chart.
according to their own data, Donald Trump is losing. Also, Donald Trump learned this morning that a federal judge issued an injunction against his campaign, stopping and...
Wait, Isaac Hayes? Chat, if you don't know, Isaac Hayes, I guess he's dead now, but he was the voice of Chef on South Park. And it was all well and good until South Park started making fun of Scientology. Isaac Hayes is a Scientologist, and he did not appreciate his religion being made fun of on the TV show that he voiced. So they ended up, I feel like they killed the character off in a very brutal way. I think he fell off a bridge or something and just got like eaten by dogs. I don't know. There was some horrible like some horrible ending for the character of Chef.
Preventing his campaign.
Oh no, it was like a lion and a wolf, and they got into a fight over his body or something.
From having any further use of the Isaac Hayes song, Hold On, I'm Coming. The judge found Trump to violate the estate of Isaac Hayes' copyright ownership to the song, as Donald Trump plays that at his campaign events, which I like to call WWE traveling fascist circus events that he calls rallies. Expect other copyright holders to win similar injunctions.
Yeah, who else? The Foo Fighters had a complaint. Now, here's one I wonder about that, and maybe chat can help me here, right? Maybe chat can help me. South Park can really not be funny at times. That's true. That is true. Down to exposure, people see more of Trump, and they learn he's even crazier than he was before. People see more of Harris and learn she's more competent and a likable person. Yeah, and she's definitely tacking towards the center as well, in some ways that are kind of annoying, and I think actually not helpful, but yeah, compared to Trump and his, his Project 2025 freak flag. I mean, I guess Trump's trying to, in desperation, bring up some things like legal cannabis, and what else has he said? Oh yeah, he's going to pay for your IVF.
against Donald Trump in the coming weeks. Also, it should be noted that Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz are putting a lot of resources into the state of Florida, while Donald Trump flip-flops on how he's going to vote on Florida's abortion amendment.
There was like a phrase I remember called South Park Republicans, where you're talking about people that aren't like, they're not like super far right, but they just hate like this was like I feel like South Park Republicans turned into the anti-SJWs, right? South Park Republicans were like atheist skeptics who eventually became the anti-SJW people.
Now claims that he's going to vote no on that amendment, which would uphold Florida's 6-week abortion ban. Kamala Harris is taking the fight directly to Trump's backyard in Palm Beach, as Keith Boykin reports, where she will launch her reproductive freedom bus tour today. Packed rooms in West Palm Beach, as Vice President Kamala Harris invests a lot of resources in Florida. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, DNC Chair Jamie Harrison, Anna Navarro, reproductive rights activist Anya Cook will all be there. You invest resources in a state if you think you have a shot at it. Also, you take a look at the new USA Today Suffolk job approval ratings for President Biden. President Biden's approval ratings are now 48% approve and only 49% disapprove, one of his highest approval.
What? Yo, people love Biden not running for president. That's wild. Chat, he was so underwater. I feel like he was underwater by like almost 20 points. When I say underwater, I mean like his disapprove was like that much higher than his approval. So he's +7 on approval, meaning that he was at 41. He's -8 on disapproval, meaning he was at 57. So that would have been a 16 points underwater. Motherfucker went from 16 points underwater on June 30th, okay, to get this 1 point underwater, which, doesn't sound good still. You're like, there's more people that disapprove than approve, right? That's not great. But for a incumbent president, it's actually pretty good. The way approval ratings work is that generally when somebody goes into office, they're very high. Especially if it's, somebody like Obama that wins by kind of a landslide, has somewhat of a mandate. And then, as the Republicans are able to find traction with their message, with their, Tea Party message in Obama's case against him, then you see the disapprove go up and the approval go down as they go. But yeah, for him to be only 1 point underwater is actually, believe it or not, pretty good.
Ratings to date. I would not.
And Harris is above water. Harris is 3 points above 49 to 46 on approval.
Be surprised if he has a net favorable approval rating in the coming weeks, like Vice President Kamala Harris does. Vice President Kamala Harris, 49% favorable, 46% unfavorable. That's a net +3 favorability. On the other hand, Donald Trump has only 42% favorable, 56% unfavorable. That's a -4 net favorability. So a shift of 17 points in favorability in favor of Vice President Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. Just so you see what a big deal it is.
Let's go back to that.
Rasmussen now has Donald Trump losing.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. This is all Rasmussen? Wait, let me just make sure. Let me make sure what I know. Interactive polls. Okay. USA Today, Suffolk. Okay. So sorry. Yeah, I wanted to make sure. Yeah, Rasmussen is the one that is heavily Republican. What did they have for Donald Trump?
I would not be surprised if he has a net favorable approval rating in the coming weeks, like Vice President Kamala Harris does. Vice President Kamala Harris, 49% favorable, 46% unfavorable. That's a net +3 favorability. On the other hand, Donald Trump has only 42% favorable, 56% unfavorable.
I'm actually surprised. I am actually surprised that Donald Trump's net is that high. Or sorry, that it's -4, right? I'm surprised it's not more than -4. Now, as far as Trump's favorability, it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good. It hasn't been good since, like, I don't know, 2016 maybe. But it was really low. It was in the 30s, I think, before he got that high-powered ear piercing in Pennsylvania, and his favorability has kind of gone up, and his unfavorability has gone down. So, I mean, you're looking at Trump at near record levels. This is like close to his high, close to his top. And yeah, you know, I mean, like this, the highest that Kamala and Biden have been in a long time too. But yeah, he's still substantially underwater. I'm actually surprised it's not more than 4%.
That's a -4 net favor.
I've seen him at like -11 pretty recently.
So a shift of 17 points in favorability in favor of Vice President Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. Just so you see what a big deal it is that Rasmussen now has Donald Trump losing to Vice President Kamala Harris. Like, here's a speech that Donald Trump gave a few weeks ago in Philadelphia, where he said that Rasmussen still has him winning. He goes, Rasmussen, in my opinion, is the most respected.
Yeah, he swears by it.
One out there, which they're not. They're like quite literally the least respected.
Chad, that's his copium. That's his copium.
Out there. He goes, but they have me winning, so I like them, but I'm not going to like them if they don't have me winning anymore.
Kamala still holds 6 keys for the election. You mean 6 key states?
Here, watch this.
Last night, and they will never tell you this because they're fake news, but last night, Rasmussen, which is, in my opinion, the most respected poll out there. Now, of course, if we get a bad one, I'll take that.
It's not. It's one of the least respected ones, right? It's one of the most obviously in the tank for one side or the other. There are polls, I'm sure you could find similar polls that tend to rate Democrats higher than the rest of the polls, but Rasmussen is like it's the copium for Republicans. That and Trafalgar. Trafalgar is probably a little bit worse, but...
That back. If I had a bad poll, if they come out with a bad poll in a month from now, say Rasmussen is terrible. But Rasmussen, no, it is a highly respected pollster. And they came out with a poll last night that Trump is 10 points up.
They're actually not. They've been dropped. I think 538 dropped Rasmussen, right? They're so disrespected that people are taking them out of their aggregates because they feel like Rasmussen is just a kind of confounding, like it's a outlier.
The fake news will not report.
And then, speaking of this injunction that was issued by a federal judge prohibiting Donald Trump from further use of the song Hold On, I'm Coming, here is Alina Habba speaking in Milwaukee. Alina Habba is one of Donald Trump's top surrogates right here. She spoke at the Republican National Convention, and during her speech, she said that Donald Trump would always tell her to listen to the song Hold On, I'm Coming. Here, play this clip.
I don't want to think about what that song means for Donald Trump.
President Trump also has another love. Music.
Hey, I love music too, but I can't play it on stream or else I get in trouble.
A few years ago, he wanted me to hear a new song he had selected for an upcoming rally. I could hear
a presidential playlist.
Blaring in the...
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, chat. That's what I was going to ask you. So like I said, there's a lot of if you ever watch a Trump rally, right, there's certain songs that you'll hear over and over again. Now, if it's a Trump rally from 2016 or maybe even 2020, you'll hear a Rolling Stones song called You Can't Always Get What You Want. You'll hear that over and over again because that was like Trump's like mainstay. That was his breakfast song. But I think that the Rolling Stones or the surviving members or somebody asked him to stop, so he stopped playing that, right? What you hear still, though, is the Village People. You hear YMCA and you hear Macho, Macho Man. You hear, those 2 songs by the Village People. And, like, given that the Village People are, like, you know, probably, I don't know at what point the Village People were out. Many, if not all the members of the band were gay, right? But it's kind of blows my mind that they would just be like, yeah, you know, Donald Trump can play our shit at the rallies. I don't know. Unless they're like log cabin Republicans or something like that. which is it's funny to imagine. But what I wonder is, are the Village People ever going to complain? Because Trump uses the fuck out of there. It's like his favorite thing to dance to. And which maybe tells you when the last time Donald Trump was cool was, like the 70s, the late 70s, the disco era. Like Donald, can you imagine that, chat? You go to Studio 64, everybody's getting blitzed. Everybody's getting wasted. Everybody's getting trashed, right? And Donald Trump's in there, not even drinking. And he's dancing, macho, macho man. I don't know. It's a funny image to me, right? There's something inherently funny about Trump and how much he loves Village People, how much he loves the Village People and their music.
Background at Mar-a-Lago.
Wait, the Lichtman keys?
He landed on a song called Hold On, I'm Coming.
Me too.
Now, Donald Trump continues to send email after email. This morning, there are emails like this. Ben, I will be checking your response.
What? Oh my God. I've gotten a similar text, right? I don't get emails really from campaigns, but I do get texts from the Kamala campaign from time to time. I don't know how they got my number, right? But it's like, they're always like, Irene, we're disappointed. And like, I see it and I'm just like, wait, is somebody mad at me? Is somebody like, what's going on? Like, I'm thinking it's somebody important. And it's like, the Kamala, you haven't responded to our pleas for funding. Don't you understand that this is an important election and that if Trump wins, like everything's going to suck, right? And they're like, it's like this chastising text that I get from the Harris campaign. It scares me though. It gets me to look at it, right? Otherwise, if I just saw like Harris campaign, right? If I noticed that from the get-go that there was a political text, I wouldn't look at it, right? But because it looks like something from somebody that's pissed off at me, I'm like, oh geez, what is this?
I couldn't find your response to the first question, Ben. I'm pretty sure I already know the answer, but I can't go until I know for sure. You're getting this message.
Key Lime Pie knows what I'm talking about. These give me so much anxiety when they pop up. Yeah.
Because I
think that's what they're designed to do. Getting sued for that song. That's what I'm asking, Earthkeeper. I would think that the Village People might have a problem with Donald Trump or the estates of the Village. I don't know if they're, any of them are alive still or what the deal is, but I'm surprised that there hasn't been more pushback against Trump because he uses the Village People almost like more than everything, right? And it's almost to the point where I think that it might be one of these QAnon things. It might be there might be like there might be like some kind of a dog whistle in there.
Care deeply about what you have to say. I even registered my official MAGA poll in your name so you can tell me directly, please.
I even registered my official MAGA poll in your name. What the fuck does that mean? I care deeply about what you have to say. You're hurting Trump by not responding. Please respond.
If it's not too much to
please scan this QR code and let me steal your Bitcoin.
ask, can you respond to me in the next hour? Then you respond, and it brings you to a place where they ask you to donate money. Then there's
or coin.
This is another email by Donald Trump. 7 days left until we unleash hell at my debate. It's a strange way to phrase things.
Okay, it's your debate.
Declaration of support would deliver the knockout blow to Comrade Kamala's campaign before we even step on.
Chat, I gotta put that Comrade Kamala video out. Like, this is so funny.
She'll be rattled when she sees that millions of real American patriots stand with Trump. So I need to know before the debate in 7 days, are you endorsing Donald J. Trump?
This is how I should do my dono goal stuff, right? Can you imagine that? Your support towards this dono goal would deliver a knockout blow to not getting extra content, right? I don't know how to phrase it. Brianna Wu does not want this dono goal to be reached. She will be rattled when she finds out that the donor goal is now at 29% out of 100. That's almost a third of the way there. And that out of that 29%, 21% of those who donated said that they want to see me make fun of her content. We only have, I don't know, like 2 more hours to go, chat, until we decide if we're gonna see Brianna Wu content or not. I should make mine more high stakes. You know, my appeal. No, that seems mean, especially considering that I owe you a Fallout New Vegas stream.
I mean, again, these are some very strange messages here. What else is Donald Trump posting? Here's what he posted on his social media platform moments ago. The car industry will be over and out in Michigan if the Democrats get in.
Yeah, it's a very negative approach. It's like threatening you. You don't understand. There'll be no more car industry.
If I become your president again, we will dominate the industry. Automaking plants will return at record levels.
We will bomb all auto plants outside of the United States.
The Democrats are in right now. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have led to a manufacturing boom in Michigan. They've brought factories back to Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin. So like they're quite literally MAGA living in their fantasy cult world that doesn't exist. The Democrats are in right now. The auto industry.
Oh my God, Humandra, too spicy as always. What's up?
It's not dead. It's far better right now than it was when you were in power, when you had failed trade wars against China, and where you showed up with golden shovels, delivered nothing, and where you promised infrastructure every week and never delivered that.
Oh God, you remember the infrastructure week? No, next week is infrastructure week. We're going to take care of the infrastructure. We're going to get the infrastructure. They didn't do shit for infrastructure.
Then Donald Trump praises Maduro in Venezuela. Trump goes, Maduro.
Wait, what? What? Okay, that's not on my bingo card.
Plane has just been seized by the U.S. That's okay. He can now go out and get a much bigger and better one with the money we pay to Venezuela for oil that we don't need. We have more liquid gold than any other nation. How stupid are our leaders? We are a laughingstock all over the world.
Okay, so Mycelis, you're full of shit. He's not praising Maduro.
DJT. And this is another one where you just have to...
I mean, he's full of shit, but he's not praising Maduro.
Give Donald Trump, a very, very, very important fact check right here. I mean, just take a look. Trump talks a lot about Biden buying Venezuelan oil, but maybe he's just remembering his own days in the White House. Trump's monthly imports from Venezuela of oil, 6 times higher than Biden's. Stephen Ratner reports, and you can actually see here in the chart.
And this is the thing. I'm surprised that more people don't call Trump on his bullshit more often, right? He talks about, Venezuela, like opening their prisons, opening their asylums, sending all the bad people out in the United States. The late, great Hannibal Lecter and company are coming over the border. Like I said, they're doing Red Rover, let Hannibal come over, and Hannibal busts right through. All the poor border guards, chat, they join arms and they hold tight, but they can't stop Hannibal Lecter from busting through their lines time and time again. There's more and more Hannibal Lecters coming in every time they call Red Rover.
Just go to the U.S. energy information. This stuff is publicly available. And
if they had border czar Kamala Harris there to give them +5 morale, right? If they had a higher morale, they'd be able to hold the line better. But no, Hannibal's just busting through their Red Rover lines time after time again.
And more oil right now, more domestic drilling.
Yeah, and look, this isn't good. This represents a failure in policy by the Democrats to do something meaningful about climate change. The fact that we're still on, I mean, you do see the renewable line going up too, but it's too little too late. And it's really, we still see, the crude oil and natural gas, and we haven't gotten off that yet. And the temperature, the global temperature continues to go up and up and up. But again, it's so funny. Here's what's frustrating to me about Midas Touch, Adam Mockler, all these libs, right? If the Democrats are we need a pathway to immigration, we need to care about the Dreamers, then they're like, yeah, we care about DACA, we care about the Dreamers, pathway to immigration. And then they flip and they cave into Trump. the next day, all these jackasses are just out here. Yeah, that's right. Fuck the immigrants. Let's build the wall. Like, right? They just flip on a dime. It's like whatever the Democrats say. There's no fucking spine. Look, if you want good policy, which I hope is why you are supporting, like a Kamala Harris administration over a Trump administration. If what you want is good policy, you've got to push your candidate for that. You've got to make them a little bit nervous. That's why people like Hassan, they get shit for not saying, oh, I am supporting Kamala 100%, right? Like low-key, like, yeah, I mean, he's in California, so it kind of doesn't matter. But if he was in a battleground state, he probably would. But he's not going to say that, right? Because then they feel like they've got it all wrapped up. They don't need to do anything. They don't need to change anything. They can continue with this horrible fucking god-awful support of ethnic cleansing in Gaza, and they can still get your vote, right? You got to kind of make them work for it. The Democrats should have to work for your vote. But too often they're not pressured to do that. So that's my main complaint about people like Midas Touch here. Anyway, chat. Anyway, I feel like we are good. I feel like we are maybe even great. I feel like it is time. It is time to consolidate chats. Let's do that. We're consolidating the chat. We're consolidating the chat. We're consolidating the chat. Dims don't even go to California. That's true. They don't go to a lot of states. Wait, did I do the right one? Yeah. Wait. Oh my gosh, I pinned good for Gabby's chat instead of the All right, it's time to switch chats. All right, so if you're in the shorts chat, you got a limited amount of time to make your move, get into the full screen chat that's going on right now. We're going to do a little bit, we're going to take a look at what's going on in Israel right now, and then we're going to switch to the main content that we're talking about tonight, which is Dead Domain's new video on Synthetic Man, calling out Synthetic Man like Synthetic Man's never been called out before, and to the point where some people said that Dead Domain went too far. And I'm interested to see what that's all about. So get over into the chat. I'll give you a little bit longer to make your move, to switch chats, and Twitch, you can stay where you are. You're good. I would never tell you. In fact, I think I'm contractually obliged not to tell you to move to YouTube. But like honestly, I'm happy to meet people wherever they are. There's only a single Village person left. Okay. And they haven't like said shit about Trump using their song. I would think that they would want Trump to like not. There's only one of them still alive, is what one Great Earth is telling me, and also Omega Star is telling me. I am a very hot femboy. Thank you for the follow. And clearly, if you're here, you are a very hot femboy. The number of border guards without livers is going up. About as spicy as a paprika. Wait till I drop the Caribbean jerk seasoning. I mean, that sounds good. Oh my God, Hulmandra, you have no idea. People are, platforms. People, we gotta play it. We gotta play it chill. We gotta play it chill over here. Yeah. Shakespeare's on the part where I talk about like Trump's claim that if Jesus was counting the votes, that he would win California, and Shakespeare's showing how that is in no way true. In all the population centers in California, New York, New Jersey, wherever you want to go, right, wherever he wants to claim that he's going to win, he's just getting buried, right? And sure, does he have some rural areas? Does he have some suburban areas? Does he have Orange County? Yeah, maybe, right? But even that, he doesn't have like that great of numbers in, and overall, he's just getting destroyed, right? He'll be lucky if he can win North Carolina at this point. These are the latest numbers I'm looking at, chat. At this point, I as much as I told you for a long time that North Carolina is not a swing state, that North Carolina is most likely to go for Trump, it's now looking like North Carolina is actually tilting Kamala. So, he'll be lucky to even win states like North Carolina. He you know, if he's going to win, he's going to have to squeak out an electoral college victory. He's going to have to win Pennsylvania. He's going to have to win North Carolina. He's going to have to win Georgia, and he's going to have to win like Arizona, right? He's going to squeak it out if he wins, which is still possible. And you should not make the assumption that this election's in the bag for anybody at this point. But it does look like things are moving. Things are moving in the direction of Kamala Harris. So. Yeah, everybody get into the other chat. I'm going to end the stream here, and hopefully the rest of you will get bounced. Wait, I hope I did this in the right stream. Yeah, Brianna Wu turning on Chud Logic is still winning. That's kind of interesting. Anyway, I'm going to end this stream. I will see you over at the full scale stream, and yeah, we'll go from there. Can you redirect shorts? I will, Bad Left.